So we would like to call this meeting to order at this time at 9:05 a.m. on August 25th, 2026. My name is Jared Sloan. I am with the Office of Special Education and Early Learning here at the Kentucky Department of Education. Is our camera on? You turn our camera on, Erin.
Yes.
Hey, can everyone see now?
No.
So again, call to order at 9:05 a.m., 8/25/26. My name is Jared Sloan. I am the Division Director of the Division of IDEA Monitoring the Results, formerly the SAPEC facilitator. And just for the moment today, I'm continuing in that role as we pass things off to Erin Harrell, who is the new Jared when it comes to SAPEC.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did not convene our last meeting at the end of the year, we do not have any current chair, vice chair, or secretary. So at this time, I'm going to ask for a volunteer to serve as our secretary until such time as one is appointed.
I think I volunteered for that earlier.
Emily, did you volunteer for
I
that?
did volunteer for that earlier.
Volunteer or voluntold, Emily? You want to-
Appreciate you.
So I'm going to turn this over now to Erin Harrell, who is going to do our roll call of members.
Also want to thank all of these faces on the screen today. Thank you so much for being here. We'll start with the roll call for SAPEC members. So if you would, please respond present when your name is called. And if you're virtually, please keep your camera on just so we can confirm quorum and also that you're here today. Amy Smith, present. Tiffany Clark, present. Kayla Frazier. Ashley Barlow. Greta. Porter McNabb. Jackie Holly.
Present.
Thank you. Amber Ham.
Present.
Eileen Hoover.
Present.
Heather McConnell. She's coming late, actually. Emily Fox.
Present.
Jessica Moore.
Present.
You. Laura Tipton.
Present.
Alexandria Wright.
Present.
Sheena Carruthers.
Present.
Allison Armstrong. Sorry. Kyle Curry.
Present.
Jeff Coles. Zach Stumbo.
Present.
And Jenny Ward. Present.
My pen stopped writing, so I don't know where we are in quorum. So if you don't mind.
Uh-huh.
A new one right there.
I'm pretty sure we got it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14.
We have met quorum.
Woohoo!
Congratulations. So,
We're gonna, if you would, actually, I'm gonna turn it over to Miss Greta just to welcome you today. And we've got some new directors and stuff here. Those.
We do. Thank you. Are you able to hear me okay online? Okay, perfect. So I just want to say thank you for everybody who came in today and for everybody who's online. I'm excited that we've met quorum and we're going to be able to proceed with the meeting. That's always the first hurdle to get through, because I know it's challenging times for everybody to get together. But I do want to take just a moment and we'll ask the OCL staff to introduce themselves, just so you can put names with faces. And as Jared said, do want to Also recognize that Jared Sloan has stepped into the division director role, so he's phasing out, and Erin Harrell has stepped into a role at the office level, so she's phasing in. Both of them have been with Huntsville for a while, so they're not new to the work, they're just new to these positions. So if it's okay, we'll take just 1 second, and Erin, let you start. Just, of course, you did introduce yourself, but just a little bit about your position.
Honestly, I'm really excited about being the liaison for SAPEC and meeting all of you guys. And I've already got to meet a few members at a training last week. So that was fun, and some familiar faces from the past, Miss Amy. And so I get to play that role, and I'm working with WKEC as their liaison and helping with the quarterly newsletter and Dose Institute and learning all kinds of things in my new role, and excited to be here with you guys today.
Jared, did you want to go or?
I can.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure everybody here knows me by now. That's okay. I'm Jared Sloan. Obviously, those of you who've been on SAPEC with me for a while are familiar with me. I was graced with the opportunity June 1 with the departure of Carolyn Morrison to take over as the division director of the division IDEA Monitoring and Results, or DIMMER. We are all things monitoring as well as all kinds of stuff. So I'm here to kind of help with the transition. Sorry about a little bit of a delay this morning in getting started. We're used to being in the state boardroom where some things are already ready for us. So we had to scramble a little bit on something that I hadn't really considered about being in the room, but it's taken care of now. That's all that matters.
That's right. That's right.
Good morning. My name is Jason Wheatley. I serve as the director of the Transition Education Unit in the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. About 3 years ago, we were able to secure nearly $16 million in federal discretionary grant awards. And we've been able to assemble a team across the state to lead the charge and support districts and schools and families in supporting post-school outcomes for students with disabilities in the area of transition.
Angela Gould, I provide DIMMER admin support for that section.
And as I mentioned, Greta Hilton, and I serve as the Associate Commissioner in the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. Also serve as Kentucky State Director of Special Education. And I've been in that role for, I guess, about 11 years. I've had the department for 16. Long time now. Yeah, I know. So it makes you realize how long you've been in your role. We've been doing this for a long time.
Good morning. My name's Tracy Sharp. I'm the Executive Strategic Advisor in OSEAL, and I get to work across the office. I get to work with Dr. Hilton and across the divisions with everyone, just providing support in whatever way is needed. And so I'm glad to be here with you all today. Good to see you.
Good morning, I'm Andrea Bartholomew. I am the Early Learning Units Director here at OSEAL. Moved into that role in May when Dr. Thomas Williams left us for a different opportunity. I've been at the department for going on 10 years. Y'all, not new, of course, to early childhood, but new to this role. Excited.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Melody Cooper. I'm the policy advisor in the office, and most of these people here think I'm crazy for liking stuff that I'm talking about in my job, but I do like it. And I too have been at KDE for 13 years and remember Tal as one of the, I mean, who hasn't served on a group with Tal? But that's decent.
I guess for me, I'm David Rickersham. I'm the Federal Policy and Regulatory Coordinator for OSEAL. I've been at KDE off and on for 15 or 16 years and have been an attorney for something over 25 years.
And I think we got a few people online, so I'll turn it over to them quickly.
Hello, my name is Lachina Carruthers, and I'm on the the panel as a parent, and I also work for the Department of Juvenile Justice, where I serve as a Title I coordinator for the state.
Good morning. I'm Veronica Sullivan. I'm the Director of the Division of IDEA Implementation and Programs. We support parents, families, and districts with all questions regarding IDEA implementation. We also develop resources and training that are available online for the state. I have been at the department 14 years this November, and have served in roles starting from consultant to where I am today. So good to be here today.
Good morning. My name is Shannon Sparkman, and I am the Director for the Division of State Schools. Our division is charged with the programmatic management and oversight for the Kentucky School for the Blind and the Kentucky School for the Deaf. I'm going into my 4th year in this role. I was with KDE as a consultant just prior to, but I'm glad to be here this morning. It's nice to see everybody online.
Thank you. I think that's all of the OSIL staff, and I thank you for allowing us to take just a moment to do that, because I think it's very important for you to know, put names with faces, but also want to share that as we work through, not just this meeting, but as you continue this very important role as a state advisory panel member, I want you to be able to have access to the employees within OSIL, because I think it's very, very important that we hear your voice individually and collectively as a. So thank you for giving us a little bit of time this here, and turn it back over to you.
And I think I noticed that Jeff Coles had come on, which I very much appreciate coming on to the meeting today. But if you would, just a quick roll call for present and that we can see you.
Jeffrey, we can't hear you.
I see it. I'm going to take it. I see his mouth moving.
Good morning, Jeff Coles. Jeff Coles here. As happy as ever to be present this morning, representing private schools, and I have children of my own who are special needs, and I am glad to be a part of the committee.
Thank you so much. Oh, and thank you so much, Mr. Stumbo, for putting your camera on as well as you drive. Thanks for multitasking this morning. Okay, so next we are going to just look over the agenda. You guys should, it's also in the Google Drive, and then you guys have them on your folder if you want to take a look at those. And while you're looking over those, I'm going to go over the SAPEC purpose, just for a reminder. Do this a little bit so I can see it. Just the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act requires that states establish advisory panels to advise and assist the Kentucky Department of Education on special education and related services for children with disabilities. The SAPEC members represent various agencies, individuals with disabilities, parents of children with disabilities, service providers, and administrators. It's being frustrating. The duties, the advisory panel must advise the SEA of unmet needs within the state in the education of children with disabilities, comment publicly on any rules or regulations proposed by the state regarding the education of children with disabilities, advise the SEA in developing evaluations and reporting on data to the secretary under Section 618 of the Act, advise the SEA in developing corrective action plans to address findings identified in federal monitoring reports under Part B of the Act, and advise the SEA in developing and implementing policies relating to the coordination of services for children with disabilities. We're going to go over the norms. Interpreters are provided at each SAPEC meeting, so we appreciate them being here today. Members must speak when called on for roll call or any voting. Thank you for doing that as well. When speaking, please state your name each time so the American Sign Language interpreters can communicate who is speaking to those using interpretive services. And reminder to stay focused on the topic agenda at hand for the sake of time, be that in regular business or committee meetings. Meeting materials are located in an email. I had shared that out a few days ago with you guys, and it's posted on the SAPEC meeting Google folder. Additional feedback from members is provided through the meeting exit slip. And please have your camera on and mute your microphone when not speaking. And when participating online, if you would just do the raised hand icon and we'll call on you. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Jared because we're going to do some elections this morning.
So good morning once again. As I alluded to earlier, since we were not able to meet quorum and meet at the last meeting of the year, which would have been the end of 25-26 term, as of now, there are no officers. So that's the reason that you see myself and Aaron conducting the majority of this first part of the meeting. However, we hope to have a chair in the next few moments, and that person, whomever they will be, will take over the remainder of the facilitation of the meeting today. With that said, we will now conduct the election of chair of the State Advisory Panel for Exceptional Children. I would like to open the floor for nominations for the position of chair of the SAPEC.
Everybody calm down.
Yeah. I was Tiffany Clark. I'll nominate myself as chair. I only conducted one meeting last year, so maybe it's.
It's just that you set the bar so
I
high.
appreciate your zealousness. However, you're not able to nominate yourself.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
It's Tiffany Clark. Cal Curry nominates Tiffany Clark for the position of chair. Oh, we have a hand raised.
They were probably going to nominate, I'm guessing.
Do we hear a second for that nomination?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Oh,
Amy.
my name is Amy. I'll second.
Amy Smith, seconded. Are there any further nominations for the position of chair for the State Advisory Panel for Exceptional Children? Everyone just once.
I will gladly.
Hearing no further nominations, the nominations for the chair are closed. So we do, since this is the only nominee, so Tiffany Clark being their only nominee, is there a motion to elect Tiffany Clark as chair of the State Advisory Panel?
Jenny Ward, I'd like to move that we elect Tiffany Clark as chair of the advisory council.
Thank you, Jenny. Do we hear a second?
Cal Curry, I will second.
Okay, so we will have to do a roll call vote. Remember that in order to count in this roll call vote, that your camera must be on, as with all other votes, at all times, and you must be unmuted. So we will do a roll call vote, and we will start in alphabetical order. Amy Smith.
Saying aye. Is that how we're?
Aye or nay, correct?
Okay, aye.
Remember to say your name
Oh.
before giving your vote.
Amy Smith, aye. I will get it down. Okay.
And since Tiffany can't vote for herself, I'll bypass Tiffany. Jackie Holland.
Aye.
Amber Ham.
Amber Ham, aye.
Eileen Hoover.
Eileen Hoover, aye.
Emily Fox.
Emily Fox, aye.
Jessica Moore.
Jessica Moore, aye.
Laura Tipton.
Laura Tipton, aye.
Alexandria Wright.
Alexandria Wright, aye.
Chena Carruthers.
Lachina Carruthers, aye.
Tel Curry.
Aye. Cal Curry, aye.
Jeffrey Combs. You're muted, Jeff.
Jeffrey Coles, aye.
Zach Stumbo.
Zach Stumbo, aye.
Jenny Ward.
Jenny Ward, aye.
Is there anyone whose name we did not call?
I forgot Jackie Holly, so Jackie Holly, aye, if I need to say that.
No, we got it. Thank you, Jackie. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
With that, congratulations to our, the motion carries. Our old new chair is Tiffany Clark.
Congratulations.
So Tiffany now gets to take over the remainder of the meeting, and that goes with our vice president, our vice chair nominations. Ms. Clark?
Okay, see what we get. I'd like to open the floor for nominations for vice chair. Please be sure to state your name.
And if you're online, I worry I'm not seeing your hand raised. Feel free to unmute yourself at this time if you would like to nominate. Shannon.
This is Laura Tipton. Much like Tiffany Clark, I was vice chair only for one meeting, so I'm happy to volunteer myself if someone wants to nominate me.
Tiffany Clark, I nominate Laura Tipton as vice chair.
Tal Curry, I will second.
Any other nominations? At this time, we will take roll call since there are no other nominations for Laura Tipton for vice chair. The nominee for vice chair is Laura Tipton. Is there someone who'd like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, Jenny Ward, that we vote for Laura Tipton as vice chair.
Tal Curry, I will second.
I will do roll call.
Yeah. That's why she's the chair. No.
Amy Smith.
Amy Smith, aye.
Do I see myself on this one?
Yeah, this one you do.
Okay. Tiffany Clark, aye. Layla Frazier. I missed that one. Ashley, oh, these are the characters. Okay, you did the opposite. It's got checks up, but X's. Jackie Holly,
Jackie Holly, aye.
Amber Ham,
Amber Ham, aye.
Eileen Hoover,
Eileen Hoover, aye.
Emily Fox, aye. Jessica Moore,
Jessica Moore, aye.
let's say Laura, either she's
Oh,
herself.
no, she doesn't. That's correct.
Alexandria Wright,
Alexandria Wright, aye.
Lachina Carruthers,
Lachina Carruthers, aye.
Tal Curry,
Tal Curry, aye.
Jeffrey Coles,
Jeffrey Coles, aye.
Zachary Stumbo,
Zach Stumbo, aye.
Jenny Bolander.
Jenny Ward, aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Laura. Yes, sir. Now we're going to move to secretary. Is there anyone who would like to nominate someone as secretary?
You all are making it really easy. It's copy paste right here, so I'm not really sure.
Tiffany Clark, nominate Emily Fox.
Tal Curry, I'll second.
Does it matter when we roll?
Someone else. Any additional nominations for secretary? All right, since that is the only nomination, we'll take roll call at this time.
I'd like to make a motion that we vote on Emily Fox for secretary. I'll second it. Oh, Amy Smith, I second it.
Now we will do roll call.
Amy Smith? Amy Smith, aye.
Tiffany Clark, aye. Jackie Holly,
Jackie Holly, aye.
Amber Ham,
Amber Ham, aye.
Eileen Hoover,
Eileen Hoover, aye.
Emily Fox,
You vote on this.
oh, that's right. Jessica Moore,
Jessica Moore, aye.
Laura Tipton,
Laura Tipton, I.
Alexandria Wright,
Alexandria Wright, I.
Lachina Carruthers,
Lachina Carruthers, aye.
Todd Curry,
Todd Curry, aye.
Jeff Coles,
Jeff Coles, aye.
Zach Stumbo,
Zach Stumbo, aye.
Jenny Ward.
Jenny Ward, aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Emily, secretary.
Big round of applause for all of our good old people.
There's the thank you.
Yes.
At this time, we would review the agenda. We did not approve agenda yet, so do we need to do that one first?
We had to, yes, we had to wait until we had.
Okay, so at this time, if you will review current agenda. Okay. Any discussion for current agenda?
Move to approve the current meeting agenda as written. Todd Curry.
Amy Smith, I second it.
Now we'll go through roll call. Okay. Amy Smith,
Amy Smith, aye.
Tiffany Clark, aye. Jackie Holly,
Sorry, I'm having computer issues this morning. Jackie Holly, aye.
Amber Ham,
Amber Ham, aye.
Eileen Hoover,
Eileen Hoover, aye.
Emily Fox,
Emily Fox, aye.
Jessica Moore,
Jessica, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I said Jessica Moore, aye. Did it come through?
No, you got
it
that.
did now.
Yep.
Okay.
Laura
sorry,
Tipton,
thanks.
Laura Tipton, I.
Alexandria Wright,
Alexandria Wright, I.
Lachina Carruthers,
Lachina Carruthers, aye.
Todd Curry,
Todd Curry, aye.
Jeff Coles,
Jeff Coles, aye.
Zach Stumbo,
Zach Stumbo, aye.
Jenny Ward.
Aye, or Jenny Ward, aye.
Right, motion carries. That agenda has been approved. Next would be approval for last meeting. I was gonna say last month. It's definitely not. March of 26.
And to clarify, we didn't have meeting quorum then, it was just a summary. So it be a quorum.
That was a full-on meeting. Yep, March.
You did.
Okay.
Yeah, the one in, when was it?
June?
June was the one where we did not meet quorum. The last officially full meeting was in March.
Any other discussion or questions?
Confirm that we got that date right. March 11th is one that, okay, sorry, that's 26th.
Oh, 2026. Sorry.
Yeah.
Need approval or a motion to approve the minutes?
Amy Smith, I make a motion to approve March 11, 2026 meeting minutes.
Kyle Curry, a second.
Any discussion? Right. Roll call to approve the minutes. Amy Smith,
Amy Smith, aye.
Tiffany Clark, aye. Jackie Holly,
Jackie Holly, aye.
Amber Ham,
Amber Ham, aye.
Eileen Hoover,
Eileen Hoover, aye.
Emily Fox,
Emily Fox, aye.
Jessica Moore,
Jessica Moore, aye.
Laura Tipton,
Laura Tipton, aye.
Alexandria Wright,
Alexandria Wright, aye.
Lachina Carruthers,
Latina Carruthers, aye.
Tal Curry,
Kyle Curry, aye.
Jeff Coles,
Jeff goes aye.
Zach Stumbo,
Zach Stumbo, aye.
Jenny Ward.
Jenny Ward, aye.
Motion carries. Those minutes have been approved. Next on the agenda, this is the really fun part.
Oh,
We're now going to review proposed future SAPEC meeting dates, times, and locations. These dates were sent out, or is this full discussion?
well, we have
Okay.
the list of dates in
Yes.
front of you.
I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss something, because it's also possible. Okay, so Aaron did also check schedule dates with, I guess, the state, or
Yes.
to make sure that there was no conflict there. No, you're fine. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing something. So I have some proposed dates for each meeting. And we'll allow for discussion. And then do we need to approve each date, or can we approve go each date or all together?
You can do all of them together. If you all can
If
come
we
up with
can
a
come
whole
up with
list, you're good.
consensus.
Yeah,
Okay,
Location first.
you do the dates and the location.
Okay.
You can do it all one fell swoop.
okay, so let's at least talk through the first proposed dates. That would be November, December, so November 5th, December 15th, and December 18th. Sure. November 5th, December 15th, December 18th. Location, I'm gonna assume you're in the Sourville. Is that how you say it? Sourville?
Yes.
Any discussion?
This is Jackie Holly. Are you saying 2 meetings in December?
No, just, these were the dates for the next meeting. We're just looking at one meeting at a time. So those
Oh,
3
okay.
dates were
I was
just
really
discussion
lost.
on this.
Okay,
Nope,
gotcha.
perfectly fine.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that'd be real difficult. Nope, we won't do that.
Amy Smith, December 15th, I'll be walking across the stage to get my doctorate in education leadership. So I will not hear that. It's the first time I've ever walked for a degree, so I'm actually gonna do that.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
it's kind of an odd date to do it, but that's when they decided, so. Yeah.
And then November 5th does not work. This is Erin. November 5th doesn't work for Eileen. And probably maybe some others as well as GOEC's Early Childhood Conference.
Hey.
The 18th is likely the last day of school before we go for Christmas break, so I'm guessing I won't be here if that's that big.
I would say that would be questionable for me as well. However, it's the only option. Just, oh, if all goes well, the last day before Christmas break.
This is Erin. I will bring Christmas cookies. I'll bring cookies. I will bring treats.
Laura, if something was, right, so if I was not present and Laura was present, she can still? Is that how it could work?
Correct.
Or if I have to be virtual? Sounds not great, but
Absolutely.
that's still a possibility. Any other discussion? Right, we're gonna go with December 18th for that next meeting date here at the Sauer Building. Then we'll look at February, March. So I have 5 dates for February, March. I have February 2nd, February 16th, February 25th, March 2nd, March 4th. Any dates that do not work? I'm probably going to suggest one of the March dates, hoping weather doesn't impact versus February, but
Mentioned March 2nd or 4th are good, preferable for her.
okay.
Just a reminder, these are hybrid. So even if there is weather, technically you could still hold those meetings.
About 2nd and 4th, what days?
The second is.
Thursday.
Yeah.
This is Karen. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Zach. February. What are you doing in March?
Oh,
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday, it is Tuesday, Thursday, okay. Okay, I'm gonna see if there's any discussion or against March 2nd. Tuesday. March 2nd, Sauer Building. The next schedule is April, May. This will be April 20th, April 21st, April 22nd, May 4th, May 6th, May 19th. Yeah, I would agree. If we could stay out of May, that'll definitely be a testing window for me, so.
I was gonna say the same thing. Anything we can do to stay out in May. This is Jackie Holly.
Thank you, Jackie.
What was the April date again?
20th, 21st, or 22nd.
Seconds are great for me, but I can do the
20th was requested. Thanks, Carruthers. Any other discussion on the 20th?
This is Laura Tipton. I don't have a discussion on the 20th per se. I guess I was just thinking, since quorum has been sometimes an issue, and as we're looking at these dates, is it possible to even come up with backup dates if we need them, or look at meeting more frequently, but for a shorter amount of time if we would need to. Just a thought. I'm thinking, like, I'm looking at that, thinking about that December 18th date now. And if it's the last day of classes, my kindergartner might be having his Christmas party and he has an IEP where he's not in school on the 18th, but I'm allowed to bring him in for parties that happen on Fridays because he goes to therapy on Fridays. So I'm kind of nervous about just having sort of 3 dates set in stone if we need backups or to meet more frequently for a shorter amount of time. Just a thought.
Is that an option? Can you do like an alternate date?
I mean, it's really, the only thing I would say to you is I would stick to the dates that you have there, because I know there was a little bit of discussion within the office about available dates.
Right, like within the realm of.
Yeah, if you were looking for a backup date, I'd look within those that you all have already proposed.
So it looks like if that were the case and we were going back to that November, December, it would almost make the most sense that it was the 15th with a backup date of the 18th. Versus.
Going to mention is that we're here on a Tuesday. Looks like we hit forum on a Tuesday. You might not consider that. Your other two dates look like Tuesday dates.
Okay, so then we would look back at December 15th. And then can we mark in that if we were not to meet quorum on the 15th, that we could discuss the 18th or look at the 18th as a backup?
I don't want to keep Amy from being here. We'll celebrate her.
Right.
Amy's one person. It's totally fine.
And we are doing all the, our meetings for clarification, going to be typically 9 to 3.
This is Erin. I don't know that it will take all the way to 3 o'clock
Okay.
necessarily, but 9 till 1,
Okay.
depending on how much.
This is Jared. We are getting ready to enter into SPP APR. And for those of y'all who don't know what that is, that's everything that pretty much guides special education reporting, performance reporting as far as the state is concerned. There will be quite a few items that will be coming up for you all for review during that time. So I don't want to sit here and make a promise. We're not going to go to 3 o'clock. I don't think that's, I mean, it's myself and a team that will be doing that, but we'll be presenting the information to you as we go along. It'll be a while before we get there, but I just want to make sure that is out there. We always endeavor to end earlier if possible, but I just want to make sure that you all are aware of that.
Any other discussion on those that we kind of backed up a little bit, that November, December? So we're looking at the 15th and then a possible backup date for the 18th. And we had decided April 20th. And then we're looking at our next set of dates for the end of the year. That'd be June, July. Would be June 16th, June 30th, July 14th, and July 28th.
You cannot do the July dates because that's beyond the scope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do the Junes.
16th and 30th. What days of the week are that? Sorry.
Yeah, Wednesdays.
Those are both Wednesdays.
This is Amy. I like Emily's idea of sticking to a Tuesday. If we're. But
It looks like
you cross-reference that, right, with other
Correct.
things happening in the office. That sounds like that June, well, I love consistency. Yeah, that June, those Tuesdays are not available in June.
Right. This is Erin. Yeah, that's looking at a boardroom as well as calendars here in the office. Yeah.
Okay, no, that.
I mean, we could always revisit those June dates if you all would prefer, since that's so far out. We could set a date now and then come back at the next meeting and possibly reevaluate.
Can we put that on the, almost a standing agenda item that we look at the date for the next meeting as well?
This is Erin. Yeah.
Okay. Then I am gonna propose the 16th. We usually do like a shutdown the last week of June, first week of July. So That's usually when we try to end the year and start the next, if there's no conflict with others. Looks like the 16th, June 16th, be our last date for the year. Again, all of those taking place here in the Sauer Building.
But just so I'm clear, we have December 18th.
December 15th.
Sorry, yes, switch. December 15th, March 2nd, is April 20th. Yes. And June 16th.
Correct.
This is Jackie Holly. I raised my hand a while back, but I didn't want this to go on and not be able to say something. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I apologize, I don't know her name, but the idea that she had about the backup date, I think is very important since it has been an issue and not having a quorum. Is there any way we could go ahead and do that for the April meeting as well, since there were several days right there together that you had available, and the first day you had available, I think is the day we set it for?
This is Erin. I'm just gonna outlaw it lawyer. I know that I have to post all of this 3 days in advance, so I kind of need 3 days in between the original date and the backup date is the only thing I would say, because I know that we need that then posted out to the public with the correct date.
So this is Tiffany. So that would be, we would not be able to do 3 days out. The next date we would have would be the 21st. So that would be the following date. So it may be the best option that when we have it as a standing agenda item, we discuss that next meeting, and then we can either push it forward or backward closer to that time and go ahead and set the dates for now.
Okay. I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any other discussion on those dates or locations? Would anyone like to make a motion?
Amy Smith, I make a motion for us to adopt the 26, 27 SAPEC meeting schedule.
Yes.
Again? As in the motion.
The motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you have it
Motion.
written, you want me to-
Yeah, put it down.
Yeah.
That's fine. I gotta post it in a thing.
That's okay. So, this is Amy Smith. I make a motion that we vote and approve the 2026, 2027 meeting dates of December 15th, 2026, March 4th, 2027, April 20th, 2027, and June 16th, 2027.
March 2nd.
Oh, did I say March 2nd? I'm sorry.
No, it is
You
March
said the
2nd.
4th. Oh, I said the 4th. I'm sorry, March 2nd. I looked at the 4th and said, I looked at the 2nd and said the 4th, so.
If you don't mind restating that. I'm sorry. If you don't mind.
Just gonna start with the dates if that's okay. December 15th, 2026, March 2nd, 2027, April 20th, 2027, and June 16th, 2027.
Perfect.
Thank you guys for keeping me on track.
Can I get a second?
Gina Carruthers, and I second.
We're going to that again. Okay.
Just a roll call. Man.
All right, now we will do roll call for the motion for the dates and times and location for our 26, 27 schedule. Amy Smith.
Amy Smith, aye.
Tiffany Clark, aye. Jackie Holly.
Jackie Holly, aye.
Amber Ham.
Amber Ham, aye.
Eileen Hoover.
Eileen Hoover, aye.
Emily Fox.
Emily Fox, aye.
Jessica Moore.
Jessica Moore, aye.
Laura Tipton.
Laura Tipton, aye.
Alexandria Wright.
Alexandria Wright, aye.
Lachina Carruthers.
Lachina Carruthers, aye.
Hal Curry,
Al Curry, aye.
Jeff Coles,
Jeff Coles, aye.
Zach Stumbo,
Zach Stumbo, aye.
Jenny Ward. Jenny Ward, aye. Motion carries. Those dates are set. I do think that's the fastest we've ever done this stuff. Really? A long time. Yep. Yes. Nice job. Long time. Nice job.
Oh, Jackie's got her hand up.
I can choose.
Ms. Holly, do you have anything you'd like to share?
I don't think it cleared out.
No, that was from earlier.
Okay, just making sure.
I turned it off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, yeah, no, sorry, that's right. It's all you now. I'm like, oh, did I bring you there? It looks like next on our agenda will be the fall 2026 accountability. This will be a presentation. Oh, I see. From Jennifer Stafford.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, I would first like to welcome all of the new members to the council here today. You've got some exciting agenda topics and some really good work. At the department, we look to our stakeholders for input, and we are very inclusive and like processes that collaborate with stakeholders and people in the field. So welcome to all the new members. And to OCL KDE staff, congratulations on your new positions and your new chairs that you sit in. We've got a wealth of knowledge here in OCL that it shows through. So congratulations to everyone. I'm Jennifer Stafford. I am the Associate Commissioner in the Office of Assessment and Accountability. And with me today is Shara Savage, the Director in the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support. And we've got really two focus today. First is our current model. It's our current accountability system. And with that, we're going to present the framework and the accountability system and what we're measuring toward progress for our schools this year. So our conversation will have two parts. We'll take a close look at what we're doing now in the current accountability system and the current assessment system. We'll review where we are, what the timeline of reporting, and all of those considerations toward public reporting and school performance for the 25-26 school year. Now, we had legislation in the General Assembly, from the General Assembly in the 2026 legislative session that brought about changes by way of House Bill 257. So House Bill 257 makes changes to both the assessment system and the accountability system. So we're continuing to implement those and have been in front of many stakeholder groups like this one, receiving feedback on a future reimagined accountability system. So we're going to go into the process for making those changes and changing the regulation that implements that statute. We are in the middle of developing that statute or that regulation now, based on the changes brought about in the General Assembly. So you can see here the agenda is the first part of it is about the current system, and then we'll take some time to go into the new system. Before I pass it over to Shara, Aaron, let me ask you this. Do you want us to take control of the slides so that we can advance, or do you want us to mention to you when to advance the slides? What would you prefer?
They'll share your screen.
Let's let you just take the wheel.
Okay. We'll stop sharing and let you take control of that.
Yeah, we're just going to take control. We're just, don't
Okay.
stop sharing. We're just, because we're using yours. So
Okay.
Shara, I'll turn it over to you to both take control, both literally and figuratively.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and yes, welcome to your new roles and to this committee. So we'll get right into it. But it's not okay. Maybe a little lag. Here we go. Oh, so there's a delay, and I apologize. Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the current accountability system for 2026 fall reporting. This glossary here on your screen is just a reference. So after we conclude, if there's something, a terminology that you want to take a closer look at, this is a resource here for you. So the accountability system for fall of 26, this data reporting period that we are currently in, still has status and change. It also still has the state assessment results in reading and mathematics, science, social studies, and writing that included on-demand writing and editing and mechanics that students took this past spring. It's the indicator, the progress of English language proficiency. The survey is still a part of this as the indicator. And then at the high school level, we have the post-secondary readiness and the graduation rate. For the state, the overall performance rating still yields those colors for schools and districts. So as I said, for the state accountability, it does yield those colors, and it is based on status and change, using the difference between the performance from the prior year to the current year. Now, the federal accountability piece of this is based on performance of the prior 3 years, determining that lowest performing 5% of schools. So your state accountability yields those colors, and the federal accountability yields those classifications. So there's 2 sets of data that comes out of this accountability system. So as I mentioned on the other slide, we still have those colors, blue being the highest, red being the lowest. So for each indicator, there is a color rating, and then there is an overall performance rating that yields colors as well. So here is the lineup for this fall 2026 accountability and the weights associated with each indicator. So you see at the high school, they still they have those 2 additional indicators. So in order to get the state change score, the calculation is a simple math problem. You take the current year status score minus the prior year, and that gives you your state change score. And so here we have it in practice with the reading and mathematics indicator. So we have our current year status score, and previously we just showed you how to get your state change score. So you add those 2 together, and that gives you your state indicator score. So once you have your indicator score, we apply the weights, and then those are each indicator is added up once the weights are applied, and that gives you your overall state performance score. And so here is a middle school example, and here is a high school example with those 2 additional indicators. Here is the indicator performance table that we use. And so, for example, if you have your high status in the current year, and then say you had your change maintained in your change, so your school would be green. So where the two intersect on the table is the color rating that you receive. And here is the performance rating cut scores, and these were set by the board in 2023. So at this point, I'll pause if you have any questions, or turn it over to Jennifer for her to talk to you about the federal classification. Jennifer?
Thank you, Shara. The next slide, we'll look at the federal classification. As Shara just showed you, there is 1 year of change scores for the state classifications. But for the federal classification, there is 3 years. So what we do is we take those those change scores for the last 3 years, and we take those, divide those together, and we get the federal change scores. Now, for the federal calculation, it is an identification of our different federal classifications of CSI, continuous support and improvement, TSI, targeted support and improvement, and ATSI, additional targeted support and improvement. So what that means is the schools that are in the lowest 5%, and we do this by level. So your lowest 5% of elementary schools, your lowest 5% of middle schools, and then your lowest 5% of high schools. Those schools are identified as comprehensive support and improvement. The schools that have student demographic groups that perform as low as the comprehensive, the CSI schools, are identified for TSI. So you think about your lowest schools, those are, the whole school is a CSI school, but it's when you're TSI, it's when you have a student demographic group that is as low performing as that that whole schools. So that's the difference between CSI and TSI. The CSI is your whole school is below the lowest 5%. TSI is an individual student group is performing as low as that those whole schools are. And then your additional targeted support and improvement schools are those that have been TSI but haven't exited and continue on to be identified for additional support. This year, a school that no longer meets the criteria for identification and demonstrates progress can be exited. So on the next slide, as I mentioned, the calculation, again, as Shara mentioned, the change score. I think on the next slide, then you'll see how we pull that together. And then the simple calculation of putting all of the prior year change scores together and dividing by the number of years, we'll get that overall federal change score. Now, I think this was written into law so that there was some equalization across the years, because some students or some groups of students can perform higher in 1 year and then lower in the next compared to their peers. So this calculation was meant to kind of average that out. Next slide, please. Here is an example of when we have data for change scores that have 3 years. So you can see at the that middle column, we have status, and then we have change, and then over on the bottom right hand column, you see that those are added together, those state change scores, and divided by 3 to get your federal change score. On the next slide, you'll just another example of how it brings together the indicator. And the next slide. Here is an example of a school that did not have a change score and is missing one. So they didn't have status for what the particular indicator may be 1 year, but they did the next 3 years. And so the change scores, we use all available change scores. So you can see that on the bottom right-hand side that the calculation includes the two state change scores, and it's divided by 2 to get your average federal change score. And then here's the last example of one change score. So it would be the, we would just use the one change score. And then if we didn't have any change scores, we would just use the status. It would be just the indicator would be based on that current year status. And then again, similar to what Shara showed with the state, once you get your indicator score for your federal, then it's the weights are applied, added together, and then your overall score. And there's your middle school and the changes of the middle school weights, and then there's the high school. Okay, I'll turn it back over to Shara for the exciting news of when all of this is coming out and when we can expect to see public data.
Thank you, Jennifer. I apologize. There is a lag in advancing the slides. There we go. So currently in the district, the districts have their access and their alternate access data. They have the college admissions exam, the kindergarten screen, components of the post-secondary readiness, the alternate Kentucky summative assessment, and the Kentucky summative assessment. So all that data in the districts already at this time. And so we are excited about that because we were able to get it out for most people before school started. So once again, I was able to get that good information out to the districts. So with that, we have concluded the fall QC data review that concluded last week. And then, so now we are looking forward to the Quality Control Day on September the 23rd. That'll be the first time that the district assessment coordinators have the first look at the accountability data and to identify any possible systemic issues. Then the embargo, then we'll move into the embargo data on October the 13th and the 14th, and then with public reporting being on October the 15th, and then immediately following October 15th, then we move into the 10-day regulatory data review period. And so the website requirements are still in effect. They've updated the House Bill number. So House Bill 500 still requires that each district and school display their data on their websites. And then, of course, we are here to support with any needs that the schools or district may have with this bill. And so with that, we wrap up the presentation for fall 26 data reporting. And then now we're going to move into some legislative updates. So I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
So let's pause because we're getting ready to shift now. We're shifting from the 25-26 school year in fall reporting of the current system, and we're going to start taking a look. This is like the shift to the 26-27 school year right now. So let's pause to see if anybody has questions, I welcome you to open your mic or put in chat. Let me look at chat here. See if we have any questions about what's forthcoming. Okay, if not, we'll move on to the 26-27 school year. And as I mentioned, there was a legislative session. And with that, there were a couple of pieces of legislation that impacted both assessment and accountability. So looking at Senate Bill 197, on the last day, the very final day of the legislative session, April 15th, there was a new section that popped up in the bill that basically requires the Kentucky Department of Education to go forward with another procurement of the college admissions exam. Now, also part of the bill, you can see the snippet here on the slide that shows you the exact wording that was put in there that also placed limitations on the use of general funds and required that the college admissions exam be based on the Kentucky academic standards. Well, the college admissions exams that we've administered in the past and who bid on the last procurement, those are national products. So they come from vendors who sell their college admissions exam, whether it's the ACT or the SAT. They sell it to all states and is used across the nation for college entrance. Now, those assessments are not based on the Kentucky academic standards. So we were successful in explaining that piece to the governor's office. So he was able to and did veto the first few lines of the legislation. So you can see that the first 4 lines, 1 through the first part of 8, was vetoed by the governor on April 27th. However, he did not veto the requirement for rebidding the college admissions exam. So this was the language that was left in Senate Bill 197 that did pass. So at this point, we have moved into another procurement for the 26-27 school year. So we did start the school year 26-27 without knowing which college entrance exam would be administered in the spring. So KDE is working very quickly with the Finance and Administration Cabinet, who facilitates the procurement of all contracts across state government. It's not just the Department of Education. We follow Model Procurement Code 45A, and we follow that to the T. Last year, we had a protest when we announced that the College Board won the contract in 2025 for the 25-26 school year. We had a protest against that award of the contract. And because all of the laws were followed around the Model Procurement Code, that protest, and I'll quote here, was found to have no merit. So we move forward with the College Board contract and the administration in the 2026 spring with the SAT. So the SAT was administered, and it's that contract that we are having to rebid for. So we are on track. The bids went out in May for a procurement, and generally it takes about 18 months to get a contract in place, one especially that's very large. And we are on track for announcement. We're hoping in October. So the Finance Administration Cabinet is committed to prioritizing this contract and this procurement, and so is KDE. But what we will do is we will follow all of the model procurement code to the T, as we did before, as well as make it a fair and unbiased bid. So we're moving along in the process now. So Shara, I think that at that point, I'll turn it back to you for some changes that's brought about by House Bill 257.
Yes, so thank you, Jennifer. So House Bill 257. So as we move into this bill here, so as Jennifer said, this past legislation session, House Bill 257 was passed. This is due to a lot of work from the Cool Council and the board's vision. Now, we didn't quite make it to the moonshot that we had hoped, but it is definitely a good step forward. And the first piece of House Bill 257 that I want to share with you is locally developed indicators of quality. Now, the Cool Council had referred to this as the local accountability piece, but legislators wanted to change that to locally developed indicators of quality. So now a district can opt into this if they so choose. It's not required. But if a district does want to be a part of this, there are a few things that are required to implement it. One, it has to be aligned to the Kentucky state standards. And then it also must include vibrant learning experiences. Now, there is many different ways that we're seeing this happen across the state. A couple of them that stick out to me is the building of the tiny homes where the students, they take the idea and move it all the way through until they have sold these tiny homes. So that one is really a neat, vibrant learning experience to see the students be a part of. Then additionally, they must have performance indicators be implemented, and then the districts must display on their website the school and district student data must be present. And then for KDE, we're going to be here to provide technical assistance, and then may offer a one-time payment of up to $15,000. Now, realize that that's not a whole lot of money, but it is there as an incentive to help offset some of the cost of the development. The next piece of the bill is the targeted quality measures that will be reported on the school report card. Now, just as a reminder, these are not going to be in the accountability calculations. These are just measures that the public will see on the school report card. And there's three different categories. There is the grade 8 students, the percentage of students earning at least one high school credit by the end of their grade 8. And then our seniors, grade 12 students percentage of those students who complete the FAFSA or their family opts out of completing the FAFSA. And then at the educator level, it's the percentage of certified teachers who have additionally completed their rank 2 or earn their national board certification. So then the changes that you'll start seeing that apply to the assessment and accountability. The first change you'll see in the districts is the changes to the assessment. So these changes are in effect for the 26-27 school year. So what is going to change for the assessments is the removal of editing and mechanics and on-demand writing and climate and safety survey. Now, the survey will still, it is still listed on our website for districts to use. If they so choose, they can use it in their local piece if they would like to. So it is out there for them for use. Now, we do still value writing in Kentucky, and so writing it will be required for districts to implement a policy that includes writing across the curriculum. So that is the changes for assessments. Now, as we look at accountability changes for the 26-27 school year, that will be that we will see this time next year as part of fall 27 data reporting. The first thing that you'll see is the indicators change. So we have a new indicator of chronic absenteeism. We have individual student growth for reading and mathematics. The evaluation of change is being removed from each indicator. And then writing is being removed as an indicator as well. And one of the biggest things I believe is the one overall score that will be used in the state accountability system that meets federal requirements. If you remember earlier, when I was talking about the current accountability, I said there would be two different sets of scores with the changes, and within the new accountability system, there'll be one overall score used. And just just for your information, making you aware that for KSA and AKSA, we are that contract for both of those are sunsetting with those vendors, and so we are going to be starting the procurement process for those two assessments, and it will could affect the assessments in 2028 and beyond. So this is a look at the new accountabilities indicators. This is the new lineup. So you'll have state assessment results in reading and mathematics, state results in science and social studies, individual growth in reading and mathematics, English learner progress, chronic absenteeism, and at the high school level, the two additional post-secondary readiness and graduation rate remain in place. So with that, I will pause, and if there's any questions, and if not, I'll turn it over to Jennifer for individual student growth. She's going to go a little more deeper into that.
Thank you, Shara. We're really excited about these changes that are coming forward, because the current system that we're reporting on for fall 2026 is quite complex. It has both status and change for every indicator. So that literally doubles the accountability system with both of those measures. So bringing forward into the 26-27, only having current year performance with what we've called proficiency is greatly going to reduce the complexity of the accountability system. So we're very excited about that. And you can hear it, you can hear Shara, her enthusiasm about not having two calculations, for one for the state in those colors and then the other for the federal classification. So much needed change in on the approach. So we're really excited about that. As far as individual student growth, we're moving away from change and going to an individual student growth. So change was about the indicators and the groups of students in each of those indicators and how they were progressing as far as each of those indicators. So if you think about change, it's about the school and the groups of students in there. So let's think about for an elementary school in reading and math, that indicator. So for change, it was the prior year, the third, fourth, and fifth graders. Let's take a standard elementary school, third, fourth, and fifth graders. So then as compared to the next year, third, fourth, and fifth graders. So we know those are different cohorts of students because your fifth graders moved out and you got new third graders coming in. So the change was about how cohorts of students were doing. That's going to be last reported in the fall of 2026. Moving forward, what we're going to have is measures of individual student growth. So think about those same third, fourth, and fifth graders, but this time grades 3 through 8 will start out with grade 3 students and taking reading and math, and how that particular student did then compared to what they did in third grade when they take the fourth grade reading and math assessment. So think about individual students and where the student is in third grade and then where the student is comparatively in fourth grade. So looking at that progress, that growth in reading and math 3 through 8th grade. Now, there was some discussion about having individual student growth at high school. It's technically feasible to go from 8th grade reading or 8th grade math to 10th grade reading and 10th grade math. There was some discussion about that. And if you've heard me and Shara in other presentations, we've talked about the possibility of that. But there was enough concern that there were differences in how the students' course taking patterns were between 8th and 10th grade that is no longer part of the discussion. So we're not moving forward with high school growth. It's only an elementary and middle school growth. So looking at the next slide, what we'll see is there is a growth table. So there were multiple models discussed about individual student growth. And we had lots of stakeholders come together and we've had lots of discussions. And we brought together an accountability thought partner group. And those were individuals who had much experience both at the classroom, the school, district level on teaching students and experienced with both the accountability system and academic progress. So looked at different models. So what we ended up with was a categorical growth. So think about categorical growth in those categories of performance. So those student at novice that moves to apprentice, proficient, and then on to distinguished. So how we value those, the amount of growth. So where you got the student in one year to where the student is in the following year. So this is a value table based on those categories or performance levels. And then within those performance levels, we were able to subdivide those. So if you were here back in Kentucky in the 2018-2019 school year, we had growth in previous accountability systems. And this is similar to the growth measure we used in 2019, not 2018. So we have a little bit different value table, and you can see here that the values that the students would then achieve for the school for their growth in comparison to where they were the year before. So the way you approach this table is on the left-hand side, you see the prior year, and then across the top, that second row in the light gray is the current year. So if you look and think, okay, the student was distinguished low. Let's take a distinguished low student, and that student in the prior year was distinguished low and was distinguished or proficient high the following year. So that student did not get the expected amount of growth, which was to stay kind of where they are, but move back a half level. So that student moving slightly back would earn 50 points for the system. If the student then achieved the expected growth, which would be to stay kind of where they are or move up, then if they were distinguished low and stayed at distinguished low, they would earn the 100 points toward that indicator. Now, the students are expected to maintain or to achieve those higher level standards. Because if you have a student in third grade that's distinguished low, then the fourth grade, they come back and they have learned and achieved those higher level standards at that fourth grade and remained at distinguished low at that level. So that's the kind of expected growth, that the students continue to grow, receiving those higher level and understanding those higher level standards at each of those grade levels as they progress through elementary and middle school. Now, if that distinguished low student then was the next year distinguished high, so they've progressed even more than expected, then they get that added 25. So they would get the 125 points. However, if the student fell 2 half levels, so if the student, that same student distinguished low in the prior year was proficient low, so they've lost a full performance level from distinguished to proficient, then they do not earn points in that system. Now, that's the logic throughout the middle of the table, but the edges, if you look at the top right and the bottom left, you'll see that logic does not hold the same. So looking at and having discussions with lots of our stakeholders, and especially the Kentucky Board of Education at their August meeting, they wanted to give credit for remaining distinguished. So if the distinguished high student was distinguished low the next year, they've maintained distinguished level. They wanted to give full credit for being at that distinguished low. And then the full credit or with the 25 at 125 for going from maintaining distinguished high, because there's nowhere else for that distinguished high student to go. There's not a distinguished higher level. So and then over on the left-hand side at that level of novice high to novice low, there's no points for that. And then from novice low to novice low, there's no points for that as well. So that's how we approach the table, and is currently in the regulation as it stands now. So Shara, I'll turn it back over to you, I think, for chronic absenteeism.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. So, for the chronic absenteeism indicator, it was not a part of the original proposed bill that was presented to the legislators, but they brought this to the table and wanted it to be a part of the House Bill 257. So we have worked, as Jennifer said earlier, we have been in front of multiple stakeholder groups to receive feedback, and we've implemented those changes and updates to this indicator. So House Bill 257 is defined as student engagement as measured by chronic absenteeism, which shall be defined as a student missing 10% or more of their yearly school time for excused and unexcused reasons throughout the school year. So we took a look at how Kentucky is measuring chronic absenteeism. Then we also looked at how the federal U.S. Department of U.S. Department of Education, I'm sorry, calculated, and so there was two different two calculations that we could have went with, and overwhelmingly the DPPs and other stakeholder groups favored the federal calculation. So the federal calculation is based on school days missed, while the state is currently measured by minutes of instructional time missed. So with that, with the federal measuring based on school days missed, say you have a student or a child who needs, has braces and has to go to the orthodontist once a month. So they are, parents generally try to work that at the end of the day or the first part of the day so that the student isn't missing the whole day. But then say that, that student, we still have flu season and we still have COVID outbreaks and so forth. So a couple of those illnesses within a year, along with having to go to the orthodontist, with the state calculation, that student would definitely be considered chronically absent. With the federal calculation, it does help that somewhat, especially with those appointments where if they're just missing a couple of hours of a morning or a couple hours at the end of the school day, those days wouldn't be in with the calculation. So in addition to that, the ESSA also states that it be measured for half the year, so at least 50 days. So let's take a look at let's put this into an example for you, so maybe help to understand this calculation just a little bit better. So a student who is chronically absent for 50 days, say in Carter County, maybe had an illness and or something just wasn't going right for the student in Carter County. Then the student moves to Bath County, and there in Bath County, whatever situation that the student was in improves, and so they're in. Students in Bath County for 120 days. And again, the student has improved so that they're not chronically absent, considered chronically absent in Bath County. With the 50-day rule, the student would be accountable at Carter and Bath. So, the time that the student spent in Carter County would count at Carter County, and the time that the student spent at Bath County would count at Bath. Rather than the 100-day rule, which is what we have in place for most all of our indicators currently, with the exception of graduation rate. The 100-day accountability rule, you have that track back. So where only Bath County would be accountable for the student's chronic absenteeism. So with that, that's the direction that we are moving towards. And so I hope this example helps to explain that calculation and the thoughts surrounding that. And I believe we have a question in chat, but I'm not able to see chat. If someone, Jennifer, if you could.
Okay, so Amy asked, would exceptions be allowed for students receiving therapies late in the day or early, etc.? Should those regular appointments be folded into an IEP exception students? So Sheriff, you'll go back one slide. So the way that the House bill was written, it's that includes time for excused and unexcused reasons. So your students, and we really understand the fact that we have students that have weekly, monthly therapies, and this is part of the reason why we went with the federal calculation rather than the state calculation. In the state calculation, they use minutes, and that your therapies then would be counted toward that time of being chronically absent. Whereas the the federal calculation, the student has to be absent more than 50% of the day. And so if the student has a therapy and they're there 50% of the day, they leave, or 51% of the day, they leave in the afternoon to go to the therapy and are not absent more than that 50% of the day, then that student's absence for that therapy would not count into this calculation.
Right.
However, we do understand that, your parents sometimes can't schedule in half days. And so it takes time to drive to the therapy, and it takes time for the therapy and then to drive back. So the federal calculation, that's a big part of the reason we wanted to go in the federal direction, was just for this example that you're giving, Amy.
Yeah, it definitely helps those appointment times.
But it would still calculate in that if it was over 51% based on travel and those kinds of things, it would still count as absenteeism.
It would, because in the statute, it says school time for excused or unexcused absence.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be
Are you also tracking how many students are needing the chronic absentee forms? So I would, I'm not 100% sure what the chronic absentee forms are. That would be out of our Office of Finance and Operations. So I couldn't tell you that one.
I do have a question. Another question about this too, not specifically as this goes, but from my understanding, each county really looks at the adult component of chronic absenteeism very different as far as pursuing any other charges, anything like that, as far as families go. Has any of that been taken into consideration as far as absenteeism? And the reason I say this is like, we have neighboring counties that, I don't even know what it's actually called. Somebody know? Like, if a student is, if they are chronically absent and we hand that over to a judge, I don't know the legal. Truancy, there we go. I'm like, what's the word? Truancy, that is handled very different, literally from county to county. And school districts have zero control over that. And again, this is a very touchy subject for me. Just because I am in a more rural area, but also this is something we struggle with daily. And a lot of it is not the 6-year-old, it's the adult. So are there things like, what discussion I think occurred in that? Honestly, relatively close to the same thing. If we have families that are traveling an hour for therapy, and they're going to miss probably more than half a day. Also think about students. We have current students who go to Bible study on Thursdays and miss more than 50%. But that would be no different than a student who was a homeschool student that still needed services from us, but there's the flexibility there. So I don't know, I just struggle with that a little bit. Were there any conversations about those things?
Absolutely. Absolutely, there were conversations. And so when we were talking with Kentucky United We Learn Council, who brought up all of these issues. Commissioner Dr. Fletcher took those back to legislators and advocated on behalf of the students, the schools, and the parents to not have this chronic absenteeism indicator included in accountability, because I totally agree that the absenteeism of elementary and middle school students are on the shoulders of their parents, because they frankly rely on their parents to get them to the bus stop or get them to the schools. So the Department of Education advocated strongly not to include the chronic absenteeism into the legislation. However, legislators have their own desires, and therefore that's the reason we have it in the bill and are implementing it in a fashion that we hope that then can be more reflective of the students, and by using that federal calculation, whereas if they miss only more than 50% of the day.
Trying to minimize the impact on the schools and students in schools and districts.
Jessica Moore, this is Erin. Jessica Moore has a question. I want to make sure it gets answered as
Okay,
well.
sure.
I'll read it for you.
Thanks.
It says,
I had
what it-
asked, sorry. I had asked if it would be wise to place a child on a shortened school day or shortened school week, kind of like the person was talking about earlier for these kids who do have therapies and other things. Truancy is also a touchy subject for me. My son is on a shortened school day. Is that something that combats the chronic absenteeism and the truancy risk?
So I would refer you over to the Office of Special Education and Early Learning, OCEL, for that type of change in your students as far as the services they are provided.
I wondered more about how it affects these numbers, not necessarily my specific student, but how it affects our kids who are on a shortened school week. Are they still considered, because it's technically excused, are they considered counted here, or are they not counted?
I would refer back to OCL or OFO.
I would too. But the phrase that you just used, they're excused. So if they're excusing, so I would refer back to OFO in their policies. Yeah.
Are there any other questions that see of chat?
I actually would like to follow up on that question, because I'm just thinking about students that do have shortened school days approved through their IEPs, and it could add up to over 10% of the year, but that's what we have agreed upon and approved by the ARC. And so I would not say excused absences or approved absences. Maybe this is just what it is. So that is their full attendance. And you're saying you're not sure whether that counts. That's what I think that was the question, right? Like if it's written into their IEP, that is their full attendance. So it's not like they missed 10%.
Right.
So I'm not able to answer that, because we are not in charge of of what is absent or what is unexcused, or what makes a partial school day or a shortened school day. So I really am hesitant to provide any specific details. I would need our partners in the Office of Finance and Operations who are over attendance.
This is Erin Harrell, and I think excellent questions, and we want to get an answer for you. So I'll make sure to work on getting who needs to be privy to this question and be able to answer it for us and get it back to you guys by our next meeting. Does that sound
So
good?
Erin, that is Jessie Carlton. So Jessie would be able to answer those specific questions.
Yes.
These are, I love these questions, because knowing how to respond to those are great questions. So we appreciate those questions. And I don't want to provide guidance that is maybe out of alignment with Jesse.
Right.
I do have a question on how you like where this information comes from. Is this coming directly from Infinite Campus? Is that how those calculations are taken into place?
So Jesse is Jesse Carlton, who is in the Office of Finance and Operations, will be utilizing Infinite Campus. And it's my understanding that these calculations are already there, that the directors of people personnel are already utilizing both the minutes as well as the half-day whole days that we're talking about here. So they're your district directors of pupil personnel are already aware of both the minute and the day
Yes.
calculation.
Yes.
That kind of answers some of these questions, as it'll be
Yes.
Infinite Campus.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's a report already in Infinite Campus that your DPP can pull on your school and on your particular students. So we're not waiting for that to be developed. It's already there. So what we're doing in the Office of Assessment and Accountability is just utilizing the information that is already in place and already there. So we were very excited to find the half day, whole day federal calculation for many of these situations that we've been talking about this morning.
Yes. Yes.
This is Erin. Thank you so much. And I'll get back to you guys. I'll reach out. Share that information. How districts know.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Erin. I think we just got a couple of more slides. The indicator weighting. We've got the current weighting that is going to be finally administered for one final time here in 2026. And then the current weights for the system are here in the, if you go to the next slide, share, I'm still seeing the old ones. These are the current proposed weights for the English learner progress, state assessment results in reading and math. You can see that across elementary and middle schools, they are the same weights. And you'll see that that chronic absenteeism was given 4%. That replaced that quality of school climate and safety survey at the same percentage. And so you see that all of the issues that you have brought up today were taken into consideration because of the impact that the students or the students don't have full control over their absenteeism. And so that was the least weight of all of the indicators. And then of course at the high school, you can see what the weights are across there. Now the darker green, those indicators have to add up to more than 50%. So those are weighted on the academic indicators have to weigh more than the others. So you'll notice that all of those, if you add those up across the levels, add up to more than 50%. And so Shara, I think you can finish this out here with the time frame for the regulation. I think that's the last one. Or do we have yes.
English, yeah.
Yeah.
So one more update. Now, the English language proficiency did not change with House Bill 257, but while we're making the changes, ESSA allows some flexibility, and so we want to move into option 2, especially as we introduce individual student growth in reading and mathematics. So this change begins with the 26-27 school year. So your English learner students, they will be required to take all grade level Kentucky summative assessment in reading, mathematics, science, and social studies. And they will be required to participate if enrolled or enrolled on or before the first day of your testing window, your district's testing window. So what that will look like in the accountability. So the first year is mainly just a baseline, and those assessments will be reported in the school report card, but will not be included in accountability calculations. Now, year two, the results for reading and mathematics will be included in the individual student growth indicator, and then the others would just be reported on the school report card. And then by year three, the student would be fully included into the assessment reporting and accountability calculations. So that is the last update that we have. And I'll move right into, so here is the timeline for getting the House Bill 257 fully implemented. As Jennifer said, we've already been in front of stakeholder groups, receiving feedback and adjusting our the regulation as we go along with those feedbacks. It has been in front of the board for its first read. So we are finishing out the month of August and in September before the regulation goes for its second read before the board in October. And then after that, we'll move into a public comment period, and then moving on to update the state plan. So that's the direction we're going. And so I'll stop there, and I believe there was another question that might have come in before we conclude with you today. I can't see it. Jennifer, is it?
So Amy's asking about the removal of writing. So the writing is focused it's still in accountability and a central part of testing. As far as the Office of Assessment and Accountability, we have continued to include writing. It's important in each of our content areas. There is a constructive response and extended responses in all of our content areas, as well as the requirement for districts to have a writing policy. So we feel like that writing across the curriculum is important, as well as writing in the classroom.
Any other questions before we turn it over to Erin?
Yes, Tiffany Clark. A question about the individual student growth. So previously, not that I'm aware, this could be inaccurate, but we've not seen levels of proficiency. It's just been novice, apprentice, proficient, distinguished. So will we, well, I kind of know the answer maybe a little bit right now. Like, I've never seen that before. And I know that I have some of my individual data currently. Will we be able to see that before the growth indicators for next year? Like, how is that comparatively if we've not seen it before? Are they like going back on that from the 26 school year?
So assessments were taken in the spring of 2026 that we're getting ready to report on. So for reading and math, grades 3 through 8, those spring 2026 assessments will be utilized. Those scores are currently in the hands of educators in the school districts. So we were able to get those out in early August before school started for many school districts.
Right,
So
but it's not on there. It's
those
not
are
indicated on
included
there.
in the accountability system, and that will those scores will be used. Now, I think what you're asking about is that those two different levels of novice, like novice low and novice high, apprentice low and high, and so forth. those are not going to be reporting to the students. Those are going to be used for accountability only. So those will not be in your performance levels for this year to see, because again, we're talking about two things here. We're talking about the current system and then the future system. So in the future system, you'll see in those spreadsheets for novice, those subdivisions of levels during the 26-27 school year. So you can think about getting those type of subdivisions next year in your reporting.
But they're already subdivided for current kids. We're just not able to see them. Or how would you compare that for the following year?
So they're not subdivided now. We've got to go through some standard setting on those and what determines the high and low, because one of the things that we've noticed is in doing some modeling of the individual student growth is that that it's not an equal division between the levels for all of our performance levels. So let me give you an example. So let's say that novice is from the scale points from 0 to 50. So if we take the statistical middle of 25, that will not be an accurate reflection of our students and their performance, because what we see is that more students are in the novice high category. So those students that are in the novice low, if we just took the middle part, they wouldn't have gotten, the school would not have gotten a fair opportunity to grow those students from novice low to novice high and have that a true reflection in the accountability system. So what we've got to do next year is utilize an accurate measure of subdividing those into low and high. It's not going to be the statistical middle. So that's work for the future system that will then be reported in the future system.
So let me just step in here if I can. We appreciate all the feedback here.
Yep.
Jennifer, would it be possible, what I'd like to do is I don't want to delay for this group, the feedback on all these great questions for the next meeting. What I'd like for us to do is kind of send out something to the entire panel over maybe the next week or so. Let you all chime in, see what questions you have. And then Jennifer, Sharon, would it be okay if we just submitted those to you all to sort of try to address those as much as possible?
Sure. Absolutely.
Any other like burning questions? I don't want to cut anyone short here, but I want to make sure that we're honoring your genuine inquiry. But I promise you, we will get your feedback and try to get your response as complete a response as possible and not wait until the next meeting.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for your good questions today. They help us as we move forward in our presentations.
Yes. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Need permission back, hopefully. Okay, next up.
Ready? And then after this, we're gonna take a break. We've got about 15 minutes. Everyone's good to keep moving forward for about 15 minutes and then we'll take a quick break.
That'll be pretty short. I am Tanya Sharp. I'm with the Guidance and Support Branch in our Division of IDEA implementation. And so I'm just going to go over House Bill 562 and what that means for our state-defined alternate diploma. So the House bill was approved and it named an alternate diploma and a modified diploma. And the important thing to note on that is the alternate diploma. We currently have an alternative high school diploma, but that is more equivalent to the modified diploma. This alternate diploma, it meets all the requirements of the Every Student Succeeds Act for a state-defined high school diploma. So we have a cross-agency collaboration group working on this, looking at policies and procedures and guidance that's needed in order to develop and implement this diploma. With that being said, we go to the next slide. The diploma itself, again, it has to be state defined, so we're working on that. But it also has to be standards-based. The big standout is it has to be aligned with the state requirements for a regular high school diploma. So it has to be aligned to those minimum graduation requirements that are out there for the regular diploma. And then it also has to be obtained within that time period for a free appropriate public education. So they have until age 21 in Kentucky to get that diploma. Again, the cross-agency work is working on what that looks like and what that guidance entails, and they'll release that as it comes available. So really, that's all I have for you. Is there any specific questions, concerns?
Is there, and I apologize, I accidentally got, it's a long story. Is there, I watched a lot of Greta's interviews about this when she was testifying for the committee, because I accidentally ended up doing an interview about this because the news was super confused, or interested, shouldn't say confused. So I had to learn a lot real quick. I think one of the most interesting components of this was you're working with the labor cabinet, I think, to come up with a list of places. And I just thought this was the neatest little part of it that will accept this diploma across the state. And I just wanted to say kudos. I thought this was the coolest thing. Like, I love it all the way around. So thank you. That's it. Not really questions.
If I may, I'll give kudos to Representative Truitt.
Yes.
Because when we first started this conversation, and he asked, is it doable, right? Like when he first reached out and said, is it doable? What's the lift look like? We had a conversation about, it's doable, but we want it to be meaningful. And, states have had the ability to have a state-defined alternate diploma since around 2015, 16, somewhere in that area, a time when ESSA was amended. Kentucky kind of paused on that to see how it worked within other states. And the thing that, we were really concerned about was that we didn't want students who may be borderline on that ability to earn a general education diploma with appropriate supports and modifications and, supports for staff. We didn't want them to inadvertently end up on an alt diploma track because, there's some advantages for districts with this alternate diploma track, as there should be, right? Like with their graduation rates and things like that. So we watched this play out with other states and we've gotten input, and Tanya and her team have done an incredible job at coordinating with other states that have data to support how this has worked. But that's one of the things that Representative Truitt and the department had conversations around was how do we make it meet, right? Because if it's not meaningful, then it's still another certificate. And he worked very closely with the chamber, and then we had multiple meetings with them, and hopefully, it will create a space for businesses and other employers to step forward to say, yes, we absolutely will accept this diploma and work with schools and districts, young adults.
This is Erin. I see Eileen has a question. With this new alternate degree, if a person graduates with it, will they be able to check that they have a high school diploma?
So yeah, so because it's aligned to the graduation requirements for regular diploma, they do count as a high school graduate.
Erin, are there any other questions?
And when does,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, and do we anticipate this for the next school year?
It has to begin in the school year of 27, 28. Okay. So that's why the collaborative work group is working on that now, in hopes of, doing training and guidance early, but it will start with the 27, 28 school year. So beginning that year, students are eligible to earn that diploma if they meet all requirements.
And this is Erin. Veronica.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the statement to the panel. This is very early on. Tanya is leading this work. We are very early on, but we will be coming back to the panel to get your input as this is developed. So we just wanted to make sure it was introduced to you today so you know it's coming and you know that we will be relying on this panel for input moving forward.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. This is Erin, and we are going to take a 10-minute break. And so, do we need to do roll call again for the break?
Yeah, we need to make sure. And is our audio?
Yeah.
I would even see that.
So everyone, if you would, go ahead and turn your cameras back on. Appreciate you this so much. And we're going to do a quick roll call again to see who's still present. Amy Smith. Here. Tiffany Clark, present. Jackie Holly.
Jackie Holly here. Present.
Amber Ham. Amber Ham. Eileen Hooper. She had popped on me. Emily Fox. Here. Jessica Moore. This is Erin, I see her. Okay. Yes. Laura Tipton.
Laura Tipton, present.
Alexandria Wright.
Alexandra, present.
Lachina Carruthers.
Present.
Cal Curry.
South Korea present.
Jeff Coles.
Jeff Cole's present.
Zach Stumbo.
Zach Stumbo present.
Jenny Ward.
Jenny Ward present.
We still meet for them. At this time, we will hand it to Dr. Hilton for monitoring.
Yep, thank you. So we wanted to take just a little bit of your time and talk about, special education monitoring. We're going to talk about the rules that falls around why we monitor, and then the particular types of monitoring that we do each year in, school districts. And so, but I do want to go back just quickly and give you a little bit of background information. We had gotten some feedback previously from, local superintendents that, you know, the monitoring was burdensome and there's quite a bit of it, and there is quite a bit of it. But again, we will talk about why we have so much of it and how we are trying to streamline some of that and reduce some of the burdens while also maintaining true to the requirements of the IDEA. We had a focus group of superintendents that came in early spring. As part of that, we came out of that meeting with some next steps. And so one of the things that they asked for us to do was really increase communication and transparency. So if you saw last week's superintendent's webcast, you'll see that we talked about the monitoring findings from this past monitoring season in programmatic monitoring as well as physical monitoring. If you haven't seen that, if you would like to, it's posted on the KDE website.
And it's coming up next.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate that. So they're going to talk to you about that. So you don't have to go back and watch it. You'll have a live version. And we also talked about, that we do selection through a risk criteria. One of the things that superintendent said to us was that you have risk associated with first year directors of special education. And since COVID, turnover is not what it was pre-COVID. And so we have so many first year or second, third year directors. We feel like we're getting a higher risk for that and it's undeserved. Now, we were giving bonus points if they were going through some mentoring programs that we had available, but superintendents weren't always aware of that. So we did remove that as a risk factor. We also agreed to expanded training and guidance. You'll see, and this goes back to the communication piece as well. With the OCL's weekly news, you can use, and thank you, Chair, for submitting or sharing that with panel members. We have a new Mythbusters in there, and that is for anybody. If you have a myth that you would like for us to address or a belief, then we're happy to address that. And it's a completely anonymous submission, so that way we can dispel some of these fallacies, if you will, that kind of continue by word of mouth over time. Some of which may be completely accurate and some aren't. And then we, as part of that group, we also said we appreciated very much the feedback from superintendents, but we also want feedback from other stakeholders, including the state advisory panel. So you're going to hear somewhat of a modified version of what we shared with superintendents, because some of this we want it to be more specific to your roles as educators, as parents, as people with disabilities, and other stakeholders that are part of the panel. So with that said, you may see that I have kind of minimized some of our slides, but you still have access to everything within your portal. So if you have questions, we can certainly address those. But in the interest of time, I thought it's best that we keep moving. So I'm going to stop there and then turn it over to David Wickersham to start the first part of the presentation.
Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So the premise of this part of the presentation is that the fact of the monitoring of school districts itself is really not controversial. Most of the friction that we encounter in the discharge monitoring obligations has to do with either the way that we communicate about that or the way that we actually effectuate that. But the fact of monitoring itself is so clearly an artifact of and a consequence of federal law that we rarely get pushback over whether we have to do it. It has more to do with the way that we do it and the way that we talk about it. So what we had talked to the superintendents about was kind of couching this in terms of the larger overview of federal laws that actually impact the function of KDE as the state education agency and also the school districts. So some other federal laws that are typically considered less controversial as they apply in elementary and secondary settings. The Civil Rights Act, typically don't hear a lot of pushback about that application. Title IX, a little bit of controversy, but not about the fact that it applies. Section 504, not a lot of pushback about that ordinarily. The IDEA itself, and then the Americans with Disabilities Act. And one of the questions we posed to the superintendent group was, well, which of these can be waived or avoided? The answer is that none of them can be. And of each one of these, which one of these have implementation grants associated with it? So it's only the IDEA itself. So the IDEA is a grant program. There are regulations, federal regulations that talk about the applicability and the enforceability of the IDEA, whether you take the money, but it is at bottom spending clause legislation. So why the IDEA? Congress was very explicit about the reason that the IDEA was necessary. Essentially, it was because the educational needs of children with disabilities were not being met because they weren't required participants in the public education system. Some of you may be, like me, old enough to have been in school at a time when there really weren't students with disabilities as classmates. So what the IDEA protects is an entitlement to services, and that's most visibly and reliably talked about through the lens of a free, appropriate public education. So here's the federal regulation through which the Secretary of Education has asserted, and this doesn't seem to have been successfully challenged anywhere, that both the states and local districts have to follow the IDEA, even if they don't receive grant monies to do that. So the choice then is really not whether you're going to, as a district, as an LEA, or as a public agency providing educational services. The question isn't whether you're going to implement the IDEA, it's whether you're going to receive any funding to implement the IDEA. So in the same way that states make themselves eligible for IDEA Part B monies by submitting an application to the Secretary of Education and assure that every child in the state who's eligible will receive a FAPE, districts have to do that too. Districts have a separate application process where they assure, as states do, that they're going to supply those rights. Kentucky has to, as all states, indicate to the Secretary that Kentucky will identify, locate, evaluate every student with a disability who's eligible, and will provide an IEP, both in terms of the content of the IEP itself and also the services that flow through that. The LRE provision is captured here. This directly from the IDEA itself, not from the Code of Federal Regulations. You'll notice if you dig into this stuff very much, there's a lot of duplication between what's in the Code of Federal Regulations and what's actually in the IDEA. Congress had the foresight to preempt conflict between any future Secretary of Education and the Congress by essentially being so explicit about what some of their expectations are that there wasn't a way and is not yet a way for any secretary to weaken a lot of the protections of the IDEA because they're in the law. LRE here, procedural safeguards also. You're familiar, maybe to some extent, with the dispute resolution processes inside the IDEA. But there are procedural safeguards that apply even outside of those areas of conflict or friction, parent attendance, parent participation, things like that. So one of the things that we're also required to do as the state education agency is to supervise the implementation of the requirements of the IDEA, have to set performance goals for children with disabilities, performance indicators that I think may be captured in some of Jared and Jessica's presentation, and then annually report that progress to the Secretary of Education. Following up on Dr. Stafford's presentation, children with disabilities have to participate in state and district-wide assessment programs. State is required to examine suspension and expulsion rates for children with disabilities, also look for and help to address the inappropriate over-identification or disproportionate representation by race and ethnicity of children as children with disabilities. And this kind of hits again the point that I earlier made about the eligibility of local agencies for IDEA funding. And essentially what they say is, yes, we're going to follow the same requirements that the state has to follow in seeking and obtaining grant monies from the federal government. We promise, that we're going to do those same things if you give us this money to implement. And one of the important points that I hope is non-controversial seemed to be when we've had presented this information to the focus group of superintendents, is that there's really not any incentive for the state, for OSIL, for KDE to impose any requirements upon districts that we do not have to, essentially because we're following all the same requirements. This is one of those areas where there's a convergence not only of interest, but also of requirements. And we're prohibited by federal law from imposing any additional requirements without identifying those to the secretary, identifying those to all the school districts in the state and public agencies that might also be recipients. Thank you. spill thing. I think that's about my piece of it. Does anybody have any questions about that part of it? Or hand it over? Thank you.
Right, so I will pick up here, and then the next, minutes presentation is going to be about how do we, support and enforce the requirements that David spoke about with regard to the IDEA. So on the slide in front of you, you will see that there are 8 different types of monitoring that we perform annually within local school districts. We're going to dive into these a little bit more, closely, but I do want to share that Gina Mullins is here with us and she's going to be capturing your feedback. And we really do want to hear your perspective as we get to the end of this. So a couple of these that I'm going to call out first, because you'll see 8, but then I only actually have 6 slides. So if you're doing the math in your head, you'll be like, okay, why didn't we talk about those other 2? So we're going to talk about those on the front end. So the second from the bottom, the bullet, that's IDEA formal complaints. This one is not really addressed in the slides because this is contingent upon whether or not we receive the complaint. So these are filed by often parents, sometimes they're filed by attorneys, sometimes by advocates, and sometimes by other community members, because anybody that chooses to file a complaint can do so on behalf of a student with a disability. When OSIL receives these complaints, we must investigate every allegation of the complaint. The district's given an opportunity to respond, as is the complainant, and then we issue a report of findings. In Kentucky, we have an appeals process, and so within 15 days of receipt of the report of findings, the complainant and or the local school district can request an appeal, and then that goes for review to the commissioner's office. The commissioner, alongside the Office of Legal Services, conduct the appeal, and then a decision is provided to the complainant in the district. Not all complaints go to appeal, but many do. One of the things that I will share with you about IDEA formal complaints across the nation, we're seeing about a 47% increase from the previous school year to last school year. We have seen we've gone from typically 30 to 40 to 127 from the 24-25 school year to the 25-26 school year. For the start of 26-27 school year, beginning July 1, if we continue at the rate that we're on now, we will see more than 127 this year. So
17 as of today.
got 17. So and again, I'll stress that anybody has the right to file a complaint, that the SBA nor an LEA nor anybody else has the ability to prevent that from occurring. And why is the nation seeing more? I don't know. It could be that parents have become more aware of their rights. It could be that everybody coming out of COVID just seemed to be a little bit unhappy. The last few years have been hard. And so, maybe there's some of that. There's also some conversations around, what role does AI play into developing the complaints? But nobody really knows why, but it's happening. And then the other one that you'll see on there, the comprehensive special education review, that's really not in the slides, I don't believe, but that's one where it's not an annual review. We only do this when there are significant amounts of data that would suggest that there's a large risk within that school district. So if we triangulate our data and we look at, for example, if we have numerous complaints, if we have along with, not alone, but along with parent calls, sometimes we get calls from staff. Sometimes we may have, we've had actually school staff and even superintendents say, come and help us figure this out. So if we have data that would suggest that there's a reason to to monitor, we will absolutely, do that through this comprehensive special education review. Sometimes we get information from the Office of Education Accountability. Sometimes that comes to us anonymously. And so just varying ways in which, we will look at a lot of data to determine that there's an appearance of risk. So we need to go in and see if there is or isn't. And again, that is to ensure that we are being mindful of the requirements that the state education agency has regarding the IDEA. Next slide, please.
I have a question. Would you prefer that we hold questions into that part or stop in the middle?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hang on to your, if you don't mind. The risk focused monitoring, this is our annual programmatic monitoring that is based on risk. Each year we go through a pretty extensive risk analysis for each and every school district, and in the school districts with what appears to be the higher level of risk, we will add to our risk focused monitoring list. One of the things that we heard from superintendents in April is that we really needed to be more mindful of geographic regions. So for example, thinking about the cooperative regions, or what we call the SAPECs, the Special Education and Regional Technical Assistance Centers, which are for the most part aligned with the co-ops. One of the things they brought to us was, and this is completely made up because I don't have the data in front of me, but they said, well, perhaps we have 3 districts in Southeast South Central being monitored and none in the West Kentucky region. And we really hadn't thought about it like that, because then they're like, well, our SARTAC over here is really stressed for resources when this one over here at the West maybe has nobody that they're providing any support to for monitoring. So this year, a switch that we made was that we looked at risk, but then we also looked at the geography, and we balanced that out a little more. So if we had a couple of districts, one in West Kentucky, one in Southeast South Central, that were pretty similar with their level of risk, but we already had a district being monitored in Southeast South Central, then we moved over to West. So we balanced that out so that we are getting a look across the entire state, and every SARTAC is represented at least once with monitoring in risk focused monitoring. This includes hybrid. We do desk reviews. Everything that we can do here, we do. And then when we go on site, we do interviews and observations. This begins in mid-September and concludes at the end of May. So it's pretty much year long. And that's led by Jessica and her team. And then we have, next slide, please. The KEXAC, or the Kentucky Educational Collaborative for State Agency Children. We're also required to ensure that youth in KEXAC facilities are also provided with the free appropriate public education. So we review or monitor these facilities annually as well. And these also begin in September and conclude at the end of May. And this is on pretty much a cyclical pattern. So we've got like a 10-year cycle that we just get through all these facilities at least once every 10 years and then start over again. Alternate assessment participation. Probably everybody has heard about alternate assessment this year, because we, as a state, we exceed the 1%, which is the requirement that's in the ESSA for the number of children that should be participating in alternate assessment. We didn't go down. Every year we've had a waiver to USAID. They've approved that because we're going to try to reduce that number to get below 1%. We haven't gotten below 1%. So this year they issued a special condition on our Title I funding. And that's Title I funding, not IDEA funding, because the requirement is in ESSA, not IDEA. You may have heard or seen, or if you're in a school district, experienced the regional SARTACs, along with their local directors of special education, have been providing lots of support and training to staff in schools. I will share that it's been a huge effort and a lot of collaborative work, but our numbers didn't go down, and they don't seem to be going down. So we'll continue to work through that. We're revising waivers, sending that to USAID to see what they say about that moving. And then fiscal monitoring. Of course, this is a it's conducted annually. We look at the overall risk. We have a risk assessment tool for the fiscal risk as well. Had been led by Jared and his team, and I guess it will continue to be led by Jared and his team. And this is one of those things that you get a new job plus your old job example. So, well, I tell him he's got a whole team now. So, and Jessica gets real happy about that. But much like programmatic, it's the same type of activity. We look at the risk and then we do, pretty much all of this is on site because it's easier to look at financial records on site. There's not much that a classroom observation will tell you with regard to your finances. But this also includes the district finance officer as well as the director of special education. And again, September through May. And this, the state performance plan annual performance report, we have 18 indicators as part of the state performance plan. Jared talked this morning a little bit about, a lot of that will be coming at you at your next meetings. So I'll hold off on talking a lot about that. We also, the other thing that's important for the panel to note is that every 6 years, we set targets for the state performance plan. We're coming up on the end of the 6-year cycle, so we will be coming to you to help us set state targets. So you will be very, very, very familiar with the state performance plan by the time we get through target setting. But part of this includes compliance measures that we're required to monitor. So you'll see there we've got indicators 11, 12. We also have indicator 13. We do some reviews on indicator 4, 9, and 10, but I'm not going to go too deep into those. Those are typically desk reviews, and there's some proposed revisions by USAID. So some of these may be changing. So we'll kind of hold on this one until we work through this probably next week. You know that we do monitor these compliance indicators. And then we have significant disproportionality, which is required under federal regulations. And there's a link there if you would like to dig into that a little bit more. But significant disproportionality looks at data and it looks at placement, identification, and behavior. And it's the examination is conducted by race. And so there are 98 different calculations essentially for significant disproportionality. When we review this, though, Jared has a very good system for, we use all the flexibilities allowed to us under federal rule. And one of those flexibilities is to use multi-years worth of data. So we look at 3 years worth of data. And one of the things that I will say with regard to this system is that we have gone over the course of 5 or 6 years from about 30 school districts with significant disproportionality.
26 when I came back in 2020.
26 down to 4.
Down to 4.
So it's a pretty rigorous system, but we've made quite a bit of gain with that. And then, okay. So this is where, thinking about this and just to kind of put it in perspective, I'll put a bow around it, wrap it up, so to speak. On August 27th, we will send out notifications to all the local districts that have been identified for some type of monitoring this year. There are a few that we won't be able to share because we look at indicator 4 data that's lagged. So we just don't have the data to let them know. But everything that we have examined and know that they monitored this before they will get notified in August. And I think that's around 117 districts. Give or take. So close to that number. So there's a lot of monitoring. It is a big lift. It's a big lift at the local level. It's a huge lift on Jessica and Jared's team because we do have a small number of staff. We do contract with the Human Development Institute at UK to bring in retired directors of special ed, retired finance officers, retired teachers, school psychologists, as many retired people as we can to help get in and help us review files that have some lived experience with this. But that's how we tackle it. So, and again, we do hybrid, we do on-site, virtual, use Infinite Campus as much as possible. So So that's a little bit of a summary. And so we would like now to kind of turn the floor over to you to, hear what you would like, what do you like about the monitoring, based on either what you know from lived experiences or from a parent's perspective, or just from what you've heard today, and then what you would like to see improved, or possible improvements, and then any questions that you may have.
And some of this you may not, I don't know enough about it. When you were talking about formal complaints, do you all categorize those to see if they're like trends in that based on location and that kind of thing too? And is that, I guess, delivered to then co-ops potentially, if it was like a certain area to be able to coach them through or prevent some of the things, if it was, lack of knowledge, that kind of stuff, I guess is what I was asking.
That's a very good question. So one of the things that we do, with that, let me back up. 2 years ago, when we had 30 complaints, we really did it.
Right.
Because they were so spread out that the data didn't really tell you. And of course, with a couple of larger districts, you just automatically receive more, but they weren't in this space where the data would really give us a good picture for, do this, not that. Now this past year with 127, we've changed our game. So this summer, we were fortunate enough to have a law student from UK who came and did an intern here. And she has really gone through formal complaints and has started, tracking sheets. We're looking at them by region. We're collecting data around what are some of the trends we're seeing. We're seeing a lot around behavior, a lot around exclusionary practices. And it's not isolated to one part of the state. It's kind of all over. So we are doing that. I think as we move forward, if we continue at the pace we're going to get a lot of data to help us figure out where do we really need to put our resources. And the idea behind, when you think about the Division of IDEA implementation and programming, led by Veronica Sullivan, in the Division of IDEA monitoring results, led by Jared Sloan. When this office became an office in 2019, and we didn't have all the other divisions, we had really, we had these two divisions and then state schools. The idea behind that was that all of the data coming out of the Division of IDEA monitoring and results, whether it be formal complaints, which really wasn't on our radar at that time, it was more monitoring, but that the monitoring data would be fed into the Division of IDEA implementation and programming to then develop resources and tools and supports. They have been doing that. That's why you'll see we've got tons of supports, more recent supports around positive behavioral interventions and supports around the limitations on the use of restraint and seclusion. They've done a ton of work around that. And Veronica Sullivan and her team are constantly trying to get the word out. That's, in our news you can use, you'll see the resources at the bottom. Those resources occur because the monitoring data tell us these are needs across the state. And we'll also be incorporating complaints into that as well.
You care if I just add something real quick?
Sure.
This is Jared Sloan. Tiffany, one of the things, and obviously I've been on the job here a little bit over 2.5 months, that I'd like to do is not only pull the formal complaints data, but all the data, indicator data, RFM, physical together to see where we're seeing those pockets, all data. So are there things that we need to be, certain areas we need to be concentrating on? But in that that analysis that Brenda was talking to about the formal complaints, it's all over the place as far as what the findings are, and who those findings are. But I think if you incorporate that with the RFM and you incorporate that with all the other indicator pieces, I think you start to see a picture of where the assistance is really needed. And the idea being that we do partner with DIT to kind of use that data. You all know me well enough, I'm a data person, to kind of form that instruction and assistance for districts and schools and teachers and principals and parents.
Are there any other questions?
I also.
Keep going.
And the, oh gosh, alternate assessment and 1%. Was that more so nationwide too? Like when you said it had been consistent across the state, they were seeing consistent numbers across the nation. That was really what I was just curious
Yeah.
to see. Like that was, if we were maintaining that level, but other states weren't, or if it was kind of very similar.
It is very similar. So like, one of the things that's new though, is that I don't think a lot of states until the last couple of years have started seeing special conditions put on their grant. That's been relatively new. In talking with state directors of special education and you know, my colleagues across the nation, everybody's seeing it right now. We're seeing an increase in that, and our numbers aren't bad. I mean, we're around that 1.3%, 1.4%, depending on the subject area. So it's not like we have this huge increase. We're fluctuating tenths of a percentage point. So when I say we're going over, we're not at the 2, 3, 4, 5%. In some states are. You know, I know some of our larger states, they have seen some special conditions a little bit longer than some of our smaller states. But you know, we have worked really, really hard. Lauren Thieneman and the group that she works with alternate assessment, they're working very hard to try to provide additional resources and supports to commissions and relief committees, ARCs, to help them understand what now. The other thing that I will say, everybody's saying is 1% is an arbitrary number. I mean, the population changes over time, but it's written into the act itself. Right. Like, even though, and you know, people say that to me all the time. Has anybody taken this back to US Ed? And I'm like, yeah, yes, we have. We have repeatedly, but US Ed can't do anything about it either because it is technically in the act itself. Any other questions? All right, so, well, let's go back to that. Let's get some feedback on, is there anyone that would like to share anything that you particularly like or something that you don't and you would like to see improved? Because we really do want the feedback to improve our processes. You know, even hearing, you know, the feedback from the superintendent, some of that was hard to digest, but it's been really good. And it's helped us to think about things a little bit differently. So we want that feedback.
Also relieved from it, to be honest with you. I mean, even with the background knowledge kind of thing, I felt very removed to even be able to get feedback.
This Amy Smith, I think from a parent perspective, and my child is in college now, so this is reflecting. I would not have even known that this was occurring in my school district. So I think that is something that superintendents would maybe even just convey in some way to their school community that these things are even occurring, because wouldn't have known that maybe they had gone through that process while we were enrolled. And there's still so many things that parents want to know but don't even know to ask or think, well, are these things even being checked? And so I think writing it in such a way that it's not jargon heavy, right, to your audience, just having some of that information would be helpful to know that those checks and balances are occurring.
Good feedback. Anybody else?
Amy, yeah, I think if that did happen, then that might even reduce some of the complaints that you get because they don't know that it's being addressed. And if they feel it's being addressed, then that might reduce some of those things as well.
Would it be helpful for that information to come through parents' work groups or directly from the school district itself? When I think about parent groups, I'm thinking about like Kentucky SPIN, this Kentucky Special Parent Involvement Network. You know, some of the advocacy groups, you know, with, you know, learning disabilities associations, places like that. Or do you receive more information directly from the school district?
Amy Smith, I think that I always say that every school feels like its own universe. Every district feels like its own universe, and they all have their own hidden rules about communication. So I think it would vary to some degree, but I do like the idea of it coming through SPIN. I know a lot of families, you know, rely on SPIN and go through SPIN. So I mean, I know Eileen's on the call, and so she's online, so she can come in and contribute to that as well. But we ended up finishing our middle school and high school years in a small independent school district, Frankfurt Independent Schools. And superintendent sends out superintendent communication. So I could see the superintendent sending that out or it going through, you know, our PTO, PTA even. But if it had gone through our superintendent, that would have been fine because we have a small enough school district. So I could see that being managed differently. If we're thinking a small independent school district versus something like Jefferson County Public Schools, which is much larger, right? So it might need to vary, but again, I do like the idea of SPIN.
And we love partnering with SPIN, so we can certainly reach out and maybe do a joint informational flyer or something like that, just with some of this information. All right, so I'll turn it over to Jared and Jessica, and then they can share a little bit more about the trends that we saw. But, you know, as we go through, if you have feedback that pops in your mind, feel free, and we'll keep capturing it. Oh, what about the improved? I'm sorry. Yeah, was there anything that you didn't like or anything that looks like it needs to be improved? Sorry, I didn't mean to skip over that. Was it my intent?
I think you mentioned like the different regions, seeing who the monitoring. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially for co-ops and looking and seeing how they support the long-term gains too, not just in the moment. It's a good move.
Right. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. I'm Jared Sloan, in case you haven't figured that out by now. Jack of all trades, master of none. You know, it was funny what Greta said about taking things with you as you go. CCEIS also now lives within Denver, which was one of my former charges. So we had physical and CCEIS that were my former charges kind of living under the umbrella. Darnell McIntosh is realistically one of our leads for physical monitoring. She's a former finance director in Breathitt County. We have I will say, I think we have a phenomenal physical team. Power of 3 total people who do this for every single district that we monitor in the state. And that includes the largest district to the smallest district. So when I say we have a phenomenal team, those three folks do a phenomenal job with what they do. And then myself and Chris Thacker support as we can. But they are really, really phenomenal in what they do and how they do it. So I can sit here and talk about the trends and so on and so forth. Normally I'd have Darnell do this, but I figured this was probably today that you all would not. So I don't know if you want to recap this, Greta, considering this is what you just talked about. So let's talk first about the kudos or the positives where this is concerned. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of jargon here. So I'm going to warn you ahead of time that I'm going to do my best to try to explain some of this jargon as we go. Physical is a very, 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 very specialized area. In addition to everything else I have, I also am a certified school finance officer. So My dad taught my finance class back many, many moons ago, and my dad said you knew red book like the back of your hand when and if you didn't, you didn't look good in an orange jumpsuit. So for those of you who are in schools, you know exactly what I mean when I say that. He always said, I don't look good in an orange jumpsuit, so I want to make sure that I know what's required of me. So the kudos, so the things that we saw met most by districts in the state were commingling of IDEA funds. So what does that mean? That means they don't mix federal IDEA funds with other funds, whether they be school level funds or state level funds. So they were all successful at keeping those funds separated the way that it's required under federal regulation. There's this nice big long, and Tanya was in here a few minutes ago. She helped us develop a really lovely time chart that shows exactly the obligation period. It's a big, long, complicated explanation. Basically, once a district gets their money on July 1, they have 27 months to obligate those funds. So from, say, July 1 of 25, they have until September 30th of 2027 to fully put it on the credit card, as I say, and then they have to pay the bill by mid-November. So basically, those districts here, they obligated those funds within the timelines, and they paid the credit card off within the time that they're supposed to. GMAP application, that doesn't mean dick-de-darn to a lot of you unless you're in a school, but that's where we have a system, the Grants Management and Application Program, which is GMAP. That is where they submit their budgets. We review them here at KDE within OCEAL for special education funds. And we approve or make recommendations on approval based on the narratives. By the way, you may not know this, every district's GMAP application is public, and anyone can look at any district's IDEA funds application. It's on the KDE website, literally. If you Google GMAP application, you can see everything that every district expends funds on or request to expend funds on within that. So you can look at it too if you really want to have lots of fun and read all those applications. I promise you, it's so much fun. Yeah, super easy to read too. So let's talk about some of the opportunities for improvement, both for guidance from the OCEAL and on behalf of districts. I'm going to go through a quick overview here and talk about where we found the most items, and then I'm going to get a little bit more specific. Again, these are all in your application pack, or your application packets, your packets from today's meeting. If you want to go through that, and I recommend using AI to say, what in the world does this mean? That would be my suggestion for you, or you can email me or email Darnell and Chris. Budget and expenditures. This is an area of growth in every single one of our districts, an opportunity for growth. There was non-compliance. We looked at 11 districts, all 11 failed that standard. Personnel activity reports, you're required to document the time and effort difference between federal and other jobs. For instance, not a lot of directors spend 100% of their time just as special education directors. They might be a 504 coordinator. They might be a safe schools coordinator. They might be the chief cook and bottle washer. You never know. But the fact is, you can't pay them 100% with IDEA funds if they're doing non-IDEA things. And you have to document where they spend their time within that. And that's what that means is those 9 districts didn't necessarily document that in the proper manner. So that's an opportunity for improvement. Inventory. 8 of 11 districts had not completed the inventory with what is required under federal regulation. Now, am I going to tell you that's the easiest litmus test in the world to meet? No, it's not. There's a lot of small, pedantic items that have to go into that inventory. We'll go through that. Private school proportionate amounts. We'll talk about that more in depth. And finally, procurement, or how they purchase items within the district. 3 of 11 districts did not pass that litmus test. So, and I'm just going to go over this really quickly. I'm not going to get into the weeds. If you all want to ask questions, feel free here at the end. We'll go into it. So basically, these are the regulations that cover how things are budgeted and expended. But what you all want to know is where does the proverbial rubber meet the road? As I alluded to a moment ago, some districts are using IDEA funds, federal funds, to pay for 504 expenditures. 504 is not an IDEA expenditure. There's some little things that are required under federal reg. You can't pay for membership fees with organizations that lobby. So it's the lettered organizations that a lot of folks belong to, the professional organizations. If they have a lobbying on them, you can't pay for it out of IDEA funds. Medicaid administrative fees are not allowed. Food for staff members, and this is one that those of y'all who are in buildings, it's hard. I know I get stares every time I talk about this, is you can't buy a meal for a staff member unless it's a working meal, and there has to be documentation. That's the key, is they may have been doing a working lunch, but they didn't document it properly per federal guidance. So no backup documentation. Basically, they're making expenditures, not documenting those. The big one here, and this is jargon again, there are two systems. GMAP is where budgets are approved. Munis is your checking account. So you got your budget over here and you got your checking account, Munis. Their budget is not matching their checking account. In other words, those have to match. And so we've been working a lot with districts on how to make that happen. And then finally, they're expending funds that are not approved in GMAP. That's an opportunity for correction. So the personnel activity reports, this is exactly what I was talking about a moment ago. If they're 100% paid out of IDEA, which is rare, they're not documenting it correctly. That's basically, and 504 is the biggest thing that people are getting paid for that's not allowed as an expenditure. Inventory, I know that's a lot on that screen. So I'm gonna just literally explain to you what this essentially means. The federal government requires that you document anything that is purchased with IDEA funds or federal funds that's non-perishable. That's down to the fidget tool, like Jessica has in her hand over there on the other side of the room. If you purchase that for a student, that has to be documented on the inventory, and it has to be accounted for once every 2 years. So it's hard. It's hard because things disappear. And that's everything, that's anything that's non-perishable. So again, that's the reason I talk about a pencil grip. A pencil grip has to be inventoried. And that's hard to do because guess what happens when that kid takes that pencil out of that classroom? They're going to lose it. But you're supposed to keep that level of documentation. It's hard to fit to be 100% on. We have some recommendations, some guidance for districts on our fiscal resource page on how to do things like that. So there's like a recommendation on how often you need to look at certain items that might be missing. Those of you all who've been in and around classrooms and around kids, you know that they're going to lose stuff. Things are going to get damaged. It's just documenting that those things happen. And that's really what catches a lot of folks up.
So to clarify, as a parent in this capacity, there's a disincentive for districts to put in an IEP particular items, especially the small digits, those sorts of things, because
I don't know.
Tracking, I mean,
I don't know that it's
in practice is that's very rarely put into an IEP.
Yeah.
At that level.
Well, and I will say this, I mean, we would never want that because this is a federal requirement, not just an IDEA requirement. So this is a federal budgetary requirement. This is not anything that we put in place here. This comes straight out of the EDGAR guidance, and I don't want to, don't want to hear about all the EDGAR guidance, but yeah.
But that we would also probably not use that as the documentation. It would be another system, like an inventory system typically.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for like, things that are purchased.
Which is honestly a lot of times why you can, and you can purchase it out of whatever funds you want to. So you can purchase it out of gen funds.
And then do it.
That you wouldn't have to have that same litmus test. And most folks don't get like smaller items like that. But I mean, there's a balancing act to where and how you take the money
It's like
and where you expend it.
easier to track than.
Yes, and realistically, you know, but we want kids to have what they need, no matter what it is. And one part of that guidance in there is exactly kind of what we just said. Use your money wisely. You can buy the pencil grips, but you're going to keep track of it. So, yeah. A good question. Yes, go ahead.
Amy Smith. Do you think some of the issues, the common findings with the 504 expenses, is that a confusion between ADA and IDEA?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, truthfully, there's, and I mean, it's really hard to get folks to understand. And I mean, we say it at every opportunity. And I'm going to tell you, we're getting ready to present on it at Dose Institute, almost very similar. We present at CASBO, which is the Kentucky School Board Officers Association. That's your finance people. I presented at CEC to teachers so that they're hearing this information. We've presented lots of different places. There's guidance that goes out in the news you can use. We've been on the superintendent's webinar. Matter of fact, this same presentation you see was in a recent superintendent's webinar. We're doing our best to try to get this information out so that there isn't necessarily that misunderstanding, but sometimes it just doesn't get where it should.
Sometimes people have to hear it multiple times,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
Which is why I've done CCEIS 101, which is our basic, about 50,000 times over the last couple of years. But again, 26 down to 4 districts. So,
It's not. And then.
so the other thing here and what we're finding with private school proportionate amount. So basically these are the funds, the IDEA funds used to offer services for students in the private school setting. And there's a report that every district turns in that says, this is the number of students in the private school that we have that are eligible for these services. Whether it's 1, whether it's 20, whether it's 100, if you have 1 or more students, you're required to set aside that money for private school students to receive those services. Those districts, those 3 to 4 that I mentioned earlier, did not set aside those funds, even though they reported private schools. So we're working with districts to make sure and monitoring to say, if you have this reported, you have to set aside the money.
So to clarify, can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
So to clarify, they didn't even set the money aside. It wasn't that the private school didn't
Correct.
spend it.
Correct. They may have expended it. It may have just been expended out of the overall IDEA fund. That doesn't necessarily mean it wasn't provided and it wasn't. But what we're seeing is the service logs, the documentation of what they're doing and how they're doing it, what isn't necessarily there to. So if you don't document it, it didn't happen. And it's hard to say, well, yeah, we offered little Johnny XYZ service, but there's nothing to back up that Johnny received that service in that instance. That's what we see most of all. Procurement, just lacking documentation of how they're making contracts with folks, how that they're putting out bids, if they put out bids on things to get the best price, the most bang for their buck. And this is and by the way, all these are federal requirements. There's nothing that you've seen here that's a state. This would be, whether it's Title I money or whatever the different types of funds are, these are those same requirements. It's not that there's a specialized requirement just for IDEA funds.
And procurement is that after a certain amount, is that right?
Well, it depends on the district's adopted policy. Each district has a different litmus test. Like some, it might be $1,000. Some, it might be $5,000. It depends on the district policy. Jessica, do you want the remote or do you want me to do it for you?
I don't want the remote.
Okay.
So I'm Jessica Jones. I'm the branch manager of the individual programming branch. I have been with Dimmer for 7 years. I came in 2019, and I have lived programmatic monitoring for 7 years. So it has been my life, and as much as I hate to say it, I love it. I love working with the districts. I don't like coming in and monitoring. I like being with the districts and helping the districts and being that part of it. I have a team of 5 people, 2 of which do DOC, which is Department of Corrections, and we're getting ready to start, and then the TechSAC or DJJ facilities, and then the others of us do the programmatic RFM risk focused monitoring. We go out and do that, and then we have the same time all that's going on, we're doing 4 alternate assessment, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's all continuous. So we're doing all that at the same time. But while we got to travel the state last year for our monitoring, we saw many great things within the districts. And it's always a pleasure to go and be welcomed by the districts, even though we're there for not a fun thing, to be welcomed by the districts. And so while we are there, we get to see the good things. And some of the good things we got to see were like early learning buses. These support transitions from preschool to kindergarten. They provide hands-on learning opportunities for children and their families. They expand across access to learning opportunities in rural communities. We also saw districts that used family engagement nights. This offered learning opportunities for families throughout the school year. Such topics as literacy, special education, student success. It increased family engagement and school family partnerships. Next slide, please. We also saw districts that increased peer inclusion in MSD classrooms or moderate severe disabilities, but not only there, but just across the school environment. And these opportunities for students, it increased their ability to interact and learn with their peers. It encouraged collaboration and relationship building, and it supported more inclusive learning environments for these individuals. One district had a volunteer grandparent program. And so these volunteers worked with small groups of students. They supported academic instruction and learning. And this in turn helped the students build social and interpersonal skills. Next slide, please. We also saw districts who had student-led transition opportunities. So they used like reverse transition fairs for like post-secondary students. And these students, they staffed information tables and delivered presentations to community members. They shared their resumes with community members, and this helped them build communication, self-advocacy, and interview skills. Other districts had community partnerships that they had built, and they were partnered with local community training centers. This allowed them to provide programs that help the students focus on independent living and employment skills, as well as offered real-world learning experiences that help them better prepare these students for employment and adult life after high school. We have good things going on across the district, across the state in the different districts that we go into, even though we're going in for, I say a negative thing, we're going in to help them improve their outcomes for students, but we're seeing great things when we go. So when we do file reviews, we have different areas that we look at with risk focus. The different districts pull for different areas of risk, of course, but when we do all of our monitoring, we pull it all together. So some of the top areas that we found for needs improvement were like in the post-secondary transition. And so like these regulations really show, like the first one talks about This is where they invite their students to the meetings or have to have like a consent to invite like an outside agency to come to those meetings. Those are some things that aren't quite happening as often as it should. They're also not, when they send the meeting notice home to the parents, they're not always checking that they're going to discuss post-secondary transition on that meeting notice. I know it's a box that has to be checked, but in not informing the parent's not knowing exactly what they're walking into when they're going. They're not knowing exactly if they don't show up to that meeting. They don't know what they're going to discuss and what they're missing when they're not going to those meetings. And then lastly, the post-secondary goals are not quite appropriate. They're not including services, transition services, or even the courses of study to help those students become self-sufficient when they get to their outside world when they graduate. So ensuring that all of those are what those students need when they graduate and become outside world members. Next slide, please. We also saw suspension and expulsion issues. This is through indicator 4, and when students are they have when they're disciplined, they're removed. So they're not always doing like a change of placement meeting or looking at that when they're removing students from classrooms. They're not always doing what is necessary. When we look at IEP development and implementation, they may talk about behavior in the present levels or have behavior goals, but are they really discussing like in the special factors? Does that cause issues across the board and with other students? And are they really discussing that? So that was an area of improvement. Next slide, please. Also with IEP development implementation, when you look at assistive technology and also in special factors, they might talk about it again in present levels or have it in accommodations or their supplementary aids and services. But did they discuss, is that something that that student needs in the special factors to allow that student to be able to access their general curriculum? And again, it's just a checkbox, but that checkbox allows that student to, again, make sure that the IEP is consistent and connected across the whole thing. Again, IEP development and implementation is making sure that their specially designed instruction is documented, their supplementary aids and services are documented, their program modifications are documented, so that child is able to access their general curriculum and be successful within their school environment. And lastly, the initial evaluation timeline. This is districts not meeting the 60 school day timeline. Now, 60 school days for us in Kentucky, that's our timeline. The federal government just says meeting the initial timeline, which is just their timeline, but Kentucky has the 60 school day timeline. But if we're not meeting the timelines, the students aren't able to receive the services and the help that they need in order to be successful within their general curriculum. So those were areas that we found that would need improvement next time. And then if you have questions further, Darnell McIntosh is the fiscal monitoring lead. And again, my name, if you have any programmatic issues or questions.
Back over to the chair.
It looks like the public comments. This time we'll open the public comment portion of the meeting. Public comment is an opportunity for comments to be received by the panel. Panel will not debate or respond to comments during this portion of the agenda. Do you have anyone for public comment, or isn't this an option like people could submit things? Is that a thing too? Do we have anything to submit? Looks like we're at final remarks.
Thank you for participating today. Before you leave, please make sure you complete the exit slip, which is now on the screen. Appreciate your time. We've already set our date for our next meeting. I have to go back to December 15th. And we'll send out the agenda out beforehand. Does anyone make a motion? Adjourn.
I think Jenny Ward, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Tom Curry, second.
If I could, I know we talked about sending out a survey for questions regarding some of the topics today that we had discussed, but it looks like in the exit slip, there is a place to put those. So would you all please put your questions in the exit slip and they'll be, that way we have them captured? Yeah. Because it says you have any additional questions. Be perfect.
And we're going to do roll call to adjourn. Amy Smith?
Aye. Amy Smith, aye.
Tiffany Clark, aye. Jackie Holly?
Jackie Holly, aye.
Amber Ham? Eileen jump back on. Eileen Hoover? Emily Fox? Emily Fox. Jessica Moore?
Jessica Moore, aye.
Laura Tipton?
Laura Tipton, aye.
Alexandria Wright?
Alexandria Wright, aye.
Regina Carruthers?
Aye.
Sal Curry?
Tom Curry, aye.
Jeff Coles?
Jeff goes, aye.
Zach Stumbo?
Zach Stumbo, aye.
Jenny Ward? Jenny Ward, aye. And we are adjourned.